But it may be less touchy soon as the White House wants the DOJ to reclassify pot as a Schedule III drug. It's Schedule I now, but rescheduling it would put it on par with Tylenol or cough syrup, for example. State Senator Greg Taylor.
There are 38 states who have some form of cannabis policy that regulates the use of cannabis like we do, for example, with alcohol.
He tells Wish TV rescheduling would not effectively make it legal in Indiana, but he says it would bolster the argument to do so. Police say 2 people were killed when a plane crashed in Elkhart County Tuesday. Sasha Nixon reports.
The plane likely crashed around 2:20 p.m. It landed in the woods near County Road 21, and both people on board were killed. It is not yet clear what caused the crash. The Federal Aviation Administration and other agencies are still investigating. Sasha Nixon, 93, WIBC Mobile News.
Later Tuesday evening, another plane crashed in Bartholomew County as well. Both people on board that plane were able to walk away unharmed. 3 counts of arson for a man who set a bus on fire. Donnie Burgess reports.
The brown liquid was pouring from a jug onto the bus floor. There stood DeMarcus McLeod. He's accused of lighting that liquid on fire and making a run for it, while the Indigo bus burned in the background near 38th and Meridian. McLeod was found at a nearby McDonald's, say court documents. The driver managed to get everyone off the bus. Donnie Burgess, 93, WIBC Mobile News.
The Indiana Pacers couldn't get the job done last night in Milwaukee. They fell to the Bucks 115-92 in Game 5 of their first-round playoff series. The Pacers can still take the series by winning tomorrow night back in Indy. Traffic on the 5s, Matt Baer.
All right, Kurt, looking at the south side, westbound 465, crash after Harding Street, State Road 37, left lane block. Traffic stopped back to Bluff Road. Delay time is 8 minutes and growing. Inbound 69, stop and go traffic. 96th Street to 465. If you head west from 69, that's going to be a little bit slow past Allisonville Road. Traffic sponsored by Mr. Quick Home Services. Attention, Indy homeowners. Is your cooling system ready for the heat? Don't sweat it. Mr. Quick Home Services has you covered with their special $89 cooling tune-up offer. I'm Matt Baer with traffic on the 5s. Follow us at WIBC Traffic.
Politicians who tell you what you want to hear and do the exact opposite. Nothing new there, right? Well, this is one for the record books. I'm sure you've seen his ads. See if you can guess who this is. He was an original Never-Trumper on the board of the campaign that opposed Donald Trump from the beginning. Sponsored a bill to restrict guns and gear from police departments. Talk about defund the police. Even voted to pay tuition for illegals with our tax dollars. And gave them driver's licenses too. Oh, and he raised taxes 20 times and doubled state spending. Who is this big budget liberal, you ask? It's Republican Mike Speedy. So don't be fooled by those ads. Know the real record before you vote. Mike Speedy's liberal record.
I'm Jefferson Shreve, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Shreve for Congress.
The forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Maybe a stray morning shower, otherwise partly cloudy and warm this afternoon. Today's high, 81. Partly cloudy, quiet, and comfortable overnight. A low of 58. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey for 93 WIBC.
67 and partly sunny downtown. Radar is clear. I'm Kurt Darling on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
This hour on WIBC is powered by Miss M's Home and Garden, Johnson County Spring Nursery Headquarters.
You're listening to Rob Kendall.
When we talk about sending money somewhere, we're talking about printing the money because we have no money.
And Casey Daniels.
My government would never lie to me, would they?
On 93 WIBC.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 1st. It is 6 minutes after 9. You're listening to Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC. And we call on the representative from Brownsburg. You have your hand up.
Yeah, I was raising my hand because I know we got to get into what a complete loser Mike Johnson is, and we'll do that here in just a second. But can we just have an etiquette reminder for our audience, Casey?
Oh, yeah.
Because I got the letter today. and
which I opened for you.
For those of you who are new to the program, I do not open the mail, nor have I ever opened the mail in the entire 7+ years that I've worked in this building. If you're going to get me, you're going to have to do better than sending something through the mail. All you're going to do by sending something through the mail is get Casey or Kevin.
Okay.
So just
don't do that.
Reminder and disclaimer. However,
I have people counting on me.
we've had to have this etiquette conversation before on the mail. If you desire a response from me, there are rules that I would think anyone in decent society would live by. However, repeatedly, we apparently need to remind people on how to properly send letters if you desire action or a response. And today it was one of these Kaczynski letters, Casey, where it's the
no return address,
chicken scratch, handwritten, looks like, person maybe, I don't know, living in a tent or a bunker. I don't know. It was
sound like somebody on a university campus.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, there's no return address. It was stamped out of the Louisville, Kentucky post office. And now the letter was about Jamie Knoll. Okay. And this, of course, Jamie Knoll, we've clarified on him before. He is one of Eric Holcomb's very, very best friends and political allies, and was the former sheriff of Clark County. And now what is he facing? Like something like 25 felony charges or something like that against him. And this was about something they wanted me to look into about Jamie Knoll. And there may be some validity as to what they were asking me to look into. However, if you're not going to put your name behind it, I'm not going on a wild goose chase if I can't reach out to you and contact you and ask you questions about your correspondence. So to this person, I'm not doing your bidding unless you're going to put your name, and I know you're a real human being. So for everybody else, if you're going to send us correspondence, one, Casey will open it. And two, if you don't put a way to contact you and prove that you are a valid person, I'm not taking any action on your correspondence.
They just wanted you to look into something. You look into that, Rob. You stick your neck out.
It is all the time. Rob, you should do something about this. Rob, you should do something about this.
You should look into this.
It's always me who should do something about something. So I just wanted to remind our audience, Casey, that there are rules if you're going to correspond with the program.
Okay, so let me give you a quick update on Jamie Knoll since you brought it up. The audit of him found that he made over $3 million in illegal purchases. And now the Indiana State Board of Accounts is asking that he pay back those millions of dollars in unlawful charges.
I will continue to ask this question about Jamie Knoll, and this is by far the most important and interesting thing to me, is how is it that no one, not one single solitary person in the Indianapolis media. Now, look, everybody knows if I get within 10 yards of Holcomb, there's probably some sort of shoot on sight order. So I'm never going to be able to ask the question. But how is it that all these Indianapolis media people or people across the state have access to Holcomb? It's clear, it is not in dispute, the relationship that Eric Holcomb had with Jamie Knoll, how they were very, very close personal friends. They were very, very close political allies. How is it possible that this guy is facing, and his wife and his daughter have now been roped into this too, according to authorities? And how is it possible with this cavalcade, this mountain of evidence against this guy and all the crap that he's facing, that not one person in the media has stuck a microphone in the governor's face and said, how did you not know that one of your closest friends was allegedly living millions of dollars above his means? Why won't anybody ask the governor this?
How is that possible? So Knoll is currently in jail on contempt of court charges, and he's awaiting his trial on 25 felony counts.
Okay, so I just wanted to, again, just remind you if you're going to correspond with the show. Like, for example, we got an email that I'm going to read later on in the program. The person is very clearly identified as a living, breathing, functioning human. There's an actual name that corresponds with the email. There's an ability to contact the person that corresponds with the email. Those are things we will participate in and respond to. I will not respond to anonymous chicken scratch letters, even if I'm super interested in what you had to say, which in this case I was, but I'm not running fool's errands for someone who won't identify themselves.
It's like the person who wrote the letter thinks that you have some sort of protection by working here. You don't.
Unless you're sending me a definitive photo of a guy on the grassy knoll firing a weapon in Dallas in 1963, I'm out.
Do you want to talk about what's going on the college campuses? A little recap.
Oh, boy, what an uplifting segment this is going to be.
Yeah, Columbia University says that they regret having to call the New York Police Department to clear out all of the protesters, and they were left with no choice. How ridiculous has this gotten to? A bunch of Ivy League students demanding humanitarian aid so that their comrades can occupy a university building, or they might die of dehydration and starvation.
Did you see the interview that
with that girl,
the protester gave?
That woman, yes, it was absolutely ridiculous. Here she is asking for water.
Well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you? If the answer is no, then you should allow basic, I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
I'm wondering, is there no bathroom in that entire building? There's no running water, no sink, tap water? They can't do that.
Let me make sure that I understand kind of what transpired here, because I feel like I might have missed a step.
Mm-hmm.
These maniacs essentially stormed the Bastille, and they break in and invade this space that is not of their own and they have no right to be occupying. And because they're morons and no one thought it through, they thought, oh, crap, Uber Eats is probably not going to be able to deliver to us. We don't have any food. Somebody needs to bring us some food so we can continue to break the law.
Might I have a seltzer water?
But, but the reality of this is these people are doing this because this behavior has been rewarded in the past. Look at 2020. Look at how the people who burned cities to the ground, who destroyed property, who killed people in some cases, look at how they were treated. Look at how those people were treated compared to how law-abiding citizens were treated. Remember in 2020, the rioters, Eric Holcomb, called them noble.
Mm-hmm.
What did he call the peaceful people who said, hey, Mr. Governor, we just like our jobs back and society open? They were called a human petri dish. Look at what happened here in Indianapolis. How many of those people were actually, a very small portion of those people were held to any sort of account for what happened in the city of Indianapolis in 2020. And that is true in major metropolitan cities all across this country.
So the university, they said that they believe that that group that broke into the building was led by individuals who were not even affiliated with the university. CBS reported that they thought one of the protesters was actually the wife of a known terrorist. And is this not the most Hamas thing ever? Violently attack something and then demand humanitarian aid while making zero concessions.
But it's, again, and we talked about this yesterday, it's the exact same thing that happened it's the 2020 playbook, where there were all these people caught on camera at these riots and protests and, all of these events who were admitting that they were not from the area. They were traveling. In some cases, they were even on camera admitting that they were paid to go there. It's the same thing. They're running the same playbook. And what do you know, Casey? It's an election year, and there's mass civil unrest. Wow, my shocked face.
Are you surprised about the drama? Well, that person was blessed that they've actually never really needed humanitarian aid in their life. And here's a comment from somebody and his thoughts from New York City about what's going on at that university.
I think the majority of these college students honestly know exactly what they're protesting for.
The majority of these college students are here on a government loan. They are studying something unbelievably stupid. They are basically being bilked for money. They have no idea. It's the next cool thing to do. The average person, I think, at these protests is the kid that isn't cool or good looking enough to be invited to a house party. So because they're not invited to a house party, they make their own, which is out here, which is why what happens when they summon these people with a flyer, 10,000 of them show up. These are 10,000 people with nowhere else to be.
It's not a party, though. When you're vandalizing property, you're breaking doors and windows, you're making barricades, and you're forcing other people not to be able to go where they want to go. And the one thing that concerns me, all of this stuff on the university campuses, it's going to die down. It's going to come to an end. As the one woman was shouting, we're in finals. We want to go home. It's all going to end when school ends. But is this a preview of what's to come at the conventions this summer?
Well, they make the playbook so obvious, right? I mean, we've been saying for 3 years that once we get into the election season. Now, remember, they tried it in the winter with the COVID stuff, and it didn't take. They tried to come back with the everyone's going to die of COVID again, and you need to get your 9th booster, and, we're going to have to explore, social. Remember, there were some, I think, municipalities who even started enacting the bull crap again, and it didn't work because the people were like, fooled us once, shame on us, we're not going for that again. It's still too soon, and people realize that they were, hoodwinked. So they got to move on to the next thing. And so now their new civil unrest thing is going to be these maniac Marxists and communists and paid agitators who are using Israel's defense of itself against a terrorist organization as some sort of platform to try to destabilize society.
By the way, you've got the RNC coming up in July in Milwaukee and the DNC in August in Chicago. It is 17 minutes after 9. You're listening to Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
Do they still do mail in Carmel?
Carmel, don't ever change.
I love the living statues that sit on the benches. They're awesome.
Yes, that's how people from Greenwood earn extra money. Oh, I'm going to get emails. What have I done? You know everybody here is just in debt and house poor up to their ass. Don't you laugh, Zionsville. You have it worse. $1.13 trillion of credit card debt. Half of that is on the west side of Carmel.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Bill Frazier is a Hoosier, an American, who has served our citizens with distinction, determination, and a wisdom that comes with years of experience. Now, Bill Frazier is ready to dedicate his life to serving you as your next congressman in Indiana's 6th District. Bill Frazier is a true conservative. He'll fight for a secure border, smaller government, and lower taxes. He will be a tireless advocate for the Second Amendment and the rights of the unborn. Bill Frazier is a veteran paratrooper, a successful farmer and business owner, a licensed commercial jet pilot, a man with experience. When President Ronald Reagan needed expert advice on agricultural issues, he called on a young Hoosier farmer, Bill Frazier. Ronald Reagan trusted Bill Frazier. You can too. Vote for experience and determination. Vote for the true conservative Hoosier. Vote for Bill Frazier for Congress.
I'm Bill Frazier, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Friends of Bill Frazier.
Hey guys, don't be that dad without life insurance. When thanks to Ethos, you can be that great dad with life insurance to help keep his family living exactly like they do now, secure and protected in the event of the unexpected. With a fast and easy online experience, some policies as low as $1 a day and up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam, just a few health questions. Ethos makes getting life insurance protection hassle-free. E for easy, E for ethos at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
There's a domino effect that takes place when the first person orders a hash brown with their breakfast sandwich. Suddenly, no one in the car can think of a single reason why not to get a little extra crunch. And you'll hear a chorus of, "I'll do the same," from the back seat.
Say yes to tasty with McDonald's Buy One, Get One for $1. Now featuring the sausage burrito, sausage McMuffin, sausage biscuit, and hash browns for a limited time. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Valid for product of equal or lesser value.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Mother's Day is almost here. Sundown Gardens is fully stocked with high-quality annuals, trees, shrubs, decor, and more. 186th Street and Spring Mill Road, sundown.gardens.com.
Down to Dave & Buster's. I'm going to take you for all the money you got in your pocket. Down there in Greenwood, did you hear they're now going to start letting customers bet on their games?
So there is a Dave & Buster's here in Central Indiana. It's in Greenwood, is that correct?
Park Mall, yeah.
Okay, it's at the mall. So Dave & Buster's, if you're not familiar, it's like an adult showbiz pizza, right? Where they've got food, but they've all and alcohol, and then they've also got this massive arcade game type of area, like just picture showbiz pizza on steroids for adults, basically.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, whether it's the skee ball or the shooting the baskets, it usually
Pop
is
a shot.
It's usually you put a quarter in, or it's probably much more than that now with inflation, but you put it in, you play the game, you get tickets sent out to you, and then you take the tickets at the end and you get some overpriced prize with your tickets. Now you're telling me though you'll be able to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
In a like, how many shots will I hit, or what score will I get on the skee ball?
Yep, you can make a friendly $5 wager on the Hot Shots basketball game or bet on skee ball competition. Is there really such a thing as a friendly $5 bet?
Not for me, there ain't.
You're very competitive, aren't you?
Well, that's what I said.
I can see you taking this very seriously.
Nah, that's too much. That's too much pressure. Like if I go somewhere like there, I just want to be able to enjoy myself. And you know me, I could be on 10 cents and I'm going to freak out about it. But that's all I do. The only competitive thing I do now, Casey, is I do bet on sports. That's the only competitive thing that I do. I like this. I think this is a brilliant move on their part because, there's going to be all these frat bro guys who are going to be taking their girlfriends there, and they're going to be trying to show off, and they're going to make these ridiculous wagers on themselves, and there's a good chance, unless you played for the local high school basketball team, there's no way you're going to be able probably to live up to whatever that wager is, because it will be rigged in favor of the house. You know that.
Probably. I mean,
Probably.
why
What are they
wouldn't
running a soup kitchen here, Casey?
Could you imagine though somebody, there's professional gamblers out there, and then you become a professional Dave & Buster's gambler?
Yeah.
What do you do for a living? Well, I'm a pop shot.
Have you ever talked to one of those people who actually earn I'm not talking about like the big guys like World Series of Poker or whatever it's called, but there are guys locally who will earn a living. That's what they do. Like they do online poker, and they'll go to casinos. And I mean, have you ever talked to one of those people?
No, I don't know anybody who makes their living off of that.
I have a buddy and this guy is amazing. He has a super professional job in the financial industry by day. Like that is his main job. But his side job, and he's really good at it. Of course, I don't have any idea how any of it works, but he plays competitive poker either on the internet or at these tournaments or whatever, and he will win somewhere, I think, between like $10,000 and $20,000 a year as a side job. Now he plays quite a bit. He has kids, so I don't know how much dadding he's doing, because I think he does this like on the weekends. But it's crazy that this guy has this super professional, like mainstream, good paying job where he's in charge of people's finances, and then on the weekends he's like a card nut.
And so this is his side hustle. It's not his main gig.
And this could kind of be the same thing. Like if you were, let's say you were an above average high school basketball player. Let's say you were some sort of shooting guard, and you went in there for a week and kind of figured out the nuts and bolts of the game and the system and whatever. I don't know exactly how the bet is going to work, but you could probably over time accumulate some sort of, maybe not tangible or worth your time, but you could be a guy who just lives at the Dave & Buster's on the weekend.
I think we need to make a road trip and see how we do.
I'd like to see this in person. I'd like to see somebody actually bet and see how this process works.
But you know what'll happen if you and I did something like this? A fight would break out, and then there'd be like headlines, 25-person brawl at the Papa Shot, big dispute. It would go on. It would become a thing when it just started out as a friendly $5 wager.
They said there's one in Castleton, too.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There's also one in Castleton. Okay, here's my issue with this though, Casey, and this is what I tell people about whether you're going to the casino or you're betting online or you're sports betting or whatever. There's a reason these places have these big giant buildings and you live where you live. So there's a good chance the odds will not in any way be in your favor.
Be ever in our favor.
There may be a person or two who can scheme the system, but by and large, you should expect if you're engaging in betting at the Dave & Buster's, first of all, you might have a problem, and two, you should probably expect to lose.
I would just lube you up with a nice round of drinks.
Oh.
I'd get you loose, and then you wouldn't be focused as much.
Oh, you're trying to take my money.
Yeah,
right?
I'm trying to take your money. A field trip. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
I know you like a Long Island, one or two. I'll give you some of those. Your focus would be off.
I would love that you would spend more on buying me drinks than you actually win, in the betting on the Dave & Buster's.
Right.
I love that. That's a sound strategy, Casey.
Hey, can we talk about how cringy Drew Barrymore was? She had the vice president on her show, Kamala Harris, and they had this exchange, and it was so awful. I'm not. Let's just listen to it.
I've been thinking that we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now. Yeah. But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country.
She was sitting really close to the vice president, tears in her eyes.
Remember she did this with the transsexual guy.
Right.
What's his name? Mulvaney.
Right.
Yeah, remember she was doing the same thing with him.
Yeah, we need you to be Mamala of the country. Now, no matter what you have to say about Kamala Harris and how ridiculous she is, she's the vice president of the United States.
Yeah.
And Drew Barrymore is saying, We need you to hug everyone right now.
Here's my problem with Drew Barrymore, if you'll just indulge me for a second.
Yeah.
One of the endearing things when Drew Barrymore was kind of doing all those big movies in the late 90s and early 2000s, she was always she was the Julia Gulia character in The Wedding Singer.
Right.
And part of the charm of the Julia Gulia character was you believed that Drew Barrymore was America's sweetheart. And I think at her core, Drew Barrymore still probably is a sweetheart. She's also a psycho. And when you mesh psycho and sweetheart together, you get someone on national television begging the vice president to be Mamala.
To give everyone a hug.
So now I know, and it's kind of ruining The Wedding Singer for me, that indeed she probably is the sweetheart that Julia Gulia was in The Wedding Singer, but she's also insane.
But can you imagine her PR company at this point? They have to just be like, okay, now you walked across the picket line and you did some questionable stuff, and now you're asking the vice president to hug the country, putting crazy expectations on a woman in politics, and we're out.
Casey,
we're done here, Drew.
I think when she was on bended knee crying with the man who pretends to be a little girl,
I think
that's when the ship kind of sailed. In terms of things that are more offensive, asking Kamala Harris to be Mamala is nowhere near as offensive as her weeping with the transsexual.
So weird. All right, Jim Merritt is going to join us next. You're listening to Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm Mark Hurt. I approve this message.
Like you, homegrown Hoosier Mark Hurt has seen Joe Biden drive America into the ground. Are you better off today than 4 years ago? The Democrat economy has delivered daily sticker shock, crime out of control, and an open southern border that's a national disgrace. It's time to turn America around by electing Trump along with the only candidate born and raised in Indiana's 5th congressional district. Mark Hurt for U.S. Congress. One of us for a change.
Paid for by Mark Hurt for Congress.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Clearing them out. Radar is clear. It's partly cloudy and 68 downtown. I'm Kirk Darling. Here's what's trending at 9:30. Protesters have been cleared off the grounds of Columbia University. The university asked the NYPD to step in and clear out the pro-Palestinian protest camps late Tuesday night, saying that it was for the safety of all students. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, police swept through UCLA campuses overnight. And they were asked by the school to restore order as violence was breaking out between anti-war and pro-Israel protesters. The Biden administration is forgiving another $6 billion in student loan debt. The Department of Education announced today that it would relieve the debt of over 300,000 former students of the arts institutes. The department says that the company made substantial misrepresentations to prospective students about post-graduation salaries and employment. Your opening bell report on 93 WIBC, brought to you by Absolute Wealth Management, LLC. As Wall Street waits for a decision on rates from the Fed, stocks are down again today. The Dow was off 24 points to 37,969. The Nasdaq down 58 to 17,513, and the S&P 500 is off 8.5 to 5,058. I'm Kirk Darling, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
That's Faber's Bean Window. Trust me,
Are you thinking about your next home improvement project, but you need more than a window replacement? Whether it's siding, entry doors, or maybe a bath or shower remodel, design it before you buy it. That's right. B's using the latest in technology to create an architectural design so you can see our products on your house before you purchase.
For a limited time, receive 50% off all products plus 12 months, no interest, no payments.
Trust me.
Mortgage rates have lowered going into the spring selling season. Now is the time to act to maximize your equity. Mark Dietl has the plan and experience to sell your home fast and for maximum value this spring. Maybe you're worried about costly repairs or upgrades to sell your home. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Listen to what Greg in Franklin had to say about working with Mark Dietl. My tenant moved out of my investment property, and I was done and ready to sell. I heard about Mark on the radio, and everything they say is true. In 15 days on the market, I had a cash offer I wanted on the property, and it was done. Selling with Mark Dietl was fast, easy, and profitable. Call the agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietl at 317-755-4232 for all the details, or go online to markdietl.com. That's Mark, DIETEL.com. Tell him Rob sent you.
Sinus pressure, congestion, snoring, being unable to sleep, being unable to breathe. Yep, it's another sinus infection. You've Googled, watched videos, tried over-the-counter sprays, medications, and home remedies, but nothing ever works. There must be some kind of treatment that can help, right? Indianapolis Sinus Center understands how draining it can be when you try treatment after treatment without any relief. That's why they've been serving and treating the community for over 50 years. Indianapolis Sinus Center has performed thousands of procedures and helped thousands of patients find lasting relief they didn't know was possible. Patients like you. If you've had enough of sinus pain, pressure, and congestion, schedule a visit with Indianapolis Sinus Center today. Call 317-528-9650 and take the first step toward breathing easy. 317-528-9650. That's 317-528-9650, or visit IndianapolisSinusCenter.com.
Casey, I don't know if you're aware, but the property tax assessments, they're showing up in the mail, and people are rather displeased.
Yes, I've heard something about that, Rob.
It is the Kendall and Casey show, and Rob Casey's here. Look who it is. Oh, my goodness.
Good morning, Robert and Casey.
The most happy, smiley, best-dressed man in all of Indiana politics and government.
You know why he's happy?
Why?
Because he got out.
Yeah, that's right.
Why.
I'm not on the ballot.
Yeah. The great Jim Merritt, 30 years in the Indiana Senate. Hello.
Good morning to you, too.
Now, you had told us a couple weeks ago, your parents had got the new property tax bill, and
Yes.
it had gone up something like $1,000.
Very much so, $1,000.
Yeah, $1,000, and your parents are not super rich people.
No, they are. They're very happy, but $1,000 is $1,000.
And now, on top of that, the actual bills came in the mail, and shortly after that, the assessments are now showing up. And once again, it is just these completely out of control, skyrocketing assessments. We got an email yesterday from some poor lady, a family member of a lady who's widowed and elderly and lived in her house since 1978, and her assessment went up $100,000, which means, like your parents, it's probably going to be a $1,000 increase in her tax bill. I'm seeing people post them online, and yet nobody in the Indiana Republican Party in a position to do something about it. I'm talking House members, I'm talking Senate members, I'm talking candidates for governor. Nobody seems to care.
And it was an opportunity missed. And if you could have put out there a plan that was broad, like Lieutenant Governor Crouch with her axe of tax, which I'm not sure how that works anyway.
She isn't either.
But the bottom line is she got a lot of attention. She beat it like a drum, and eventually she stopped talking about the minutia, the detail of the issue. You could have done that this last summer, anticipating a property tax mess, if you will, and you could have gotten away with having everybody, when you went to the lectern in these debates, that you were going to reform property taxes. You didn't need to really go into the detail of it. You could be broad in scope, but darn it, we're going to make sure those schools are spending every dime efficiently, and darn it, that the local governments are going to make sure that they're going to count every dime. as well as we're going to ask the legislature to reform the system itself. That right there is a campaign issue that I just said in about 17 seconds that could have gotten done.
Why, real quick, and then I'll let you have in here, Casey. Why didn't somebody, we begged them. We said, somebody just take this lane. Like it's a freebie. Nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, Doden peaked up a little bit in one of the debates at one point, but you're asking me to explain the unexplainable. And I don't know why, because it hits home. It meshes so well into inflation as an issue.
Yeah, I should have run for governor. I could have won.
If they had just listened to us, right, Jim?
Well, not only us, but people that could be losing their homes. Mm-hmm. And the idea of having this system that's complicated, and most people, when they get the bill, they have no idea how to read it, number one. Yeah. And two, more than likely, it has gone up because schools are building. Local government they're escalating their revenues, and nobody's really paying any attention.
So this is a branding issue, and it sounds like Suzanne Crouch picked the wrong tax to tackle. Had she said property tax instead of income tax when everybody was getting these bills and these assessments, bing, they would have thought of her.
Well, yeah, obviously that, but I maintain if you wanted to talk about property taxes and income taxes and the sales tax, and just a complete property tax or a complete tax overhaul, it would have been a winner.
Jim Barrett is our guest. He spent 30 years in the Indiana Senate. I am, we're told nobody listens to this show, and then scientifically we believe tens of thousands of people
then
listen
you
to the show.
Tweet and you get thousands of people.
Somewhere in between. I don't know. Who knows? But we're going to operate that maybe there might be somebody listening. I'm going to do a little property tax rapid fire here with you because I don't think anybody living and still amongst us has a more broader understanding of the last 30, 40 years of Indiana government like you do. So maybe if you'll just indulge me to try to maybe prove a point here, okay? True or false, property taxes were enacted because people were petrified they were going to lose their homes because property taxes got totally out of control.
You mean in the beginning?
Yes, like in 2008 when those people showed up at the State House. Why did you guys do the property tax?
I go back to the 70s. What happened in the early 2000s is that the homes in the Butler Tarkenton area and the Midtown area were being assessed incredible amounts, and that's what really gave energy to the property tax reform of the 1, 2, 3 that ended up in the Constitution.
So the premise was the taxes were getting totally out of control.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was all Indianapolis born. It originated in Indianapolis that these enormous homes were getting $5,000 and $10,000 and $20,000 property taxes increase.
Well, that's a steal these days. That's a steal these days. You take the $10,000 increase and consider yourself lucky.
Right, and the reason why we developed the 1%, 2%, and 3% for commercial is that it was understandable and that it was controllable. And right now, as Abdul said on State House Happenings, every 10 years or so, people get excited about it, and it's a missed opportunity for the individuals that are at 5 and 7% in this governor race that have spent so much money that they could have made a real issue out of it.
My point on all this is that you have so many of these state house and state senate people who just act like, I saw somebody who had a correspondence with Jerry Torr, who thankfully will finally be done with Jerry Torr at the end of this year. Now, I'm sure his replacement may even be worse. Who knows? But it was like this response from Jerry Torr, who's a state rep from Carmel, was like, yeah, it's kind of a bad spot, but, this is a really tricky one to try to, figure out. And I just wanted for you to put in perspective that we are now at a worse place in terms of property taxes than we were in 2008 and 2010 when you guys enacted property tax. Like, it is worse today than it was when you guys did the caps, and yet now nobody seems to care in a position to do something about it.
And it's very hard to explain, and Abdul tried to do it on State House Happenings. It took him 35 seconds, and you got about 8, 10 seconds, 12 seconds to explain something to somebody, and it has to be concrete. And it's very difficult to do this, but the bottom really line of all this is the system at the State House has to be reformed. You have to make sure that your local government is not overspending and your schools aren't overspending. That's really the That's
See, I say it and they call me a lunatic. He says it and everybody goes, "This seems like a pretty good idea."
Right. Yes.
Well, it's basic and it's an enormous, complicated system, but people don't understand nuance. They're too busy with their own lives. If you're broad and you're concrete and you say this is going to be formed because these three things, you get your point across. People vote for you.
Jim Merritt's our guest. All right, so you kind of share my belief, I think, that there's too many people running for governor. Not that they shouldn't be able to run. It's that you got too many people and there's a total lack of enthusiasm. Suzanne Crouch even said this in some sort of interview recently that, basically there's no enthusiasm and people don't seem to care, and she's upset about that. Well, that's kind of on the candidates. You haven't given them anything, and there's too many people.
Yeah, there are too many people, and we do think alike in this way. I was always a proponent of the primary because it gave everybody a chance to run if they got the signatures and all that stuff. But I am a convert.
Yeah, you've seen the light.
I think the parties ought to go back to a convention style for almost all offices. In fact, when I was Marion County chairman of the Republican Party, I was a real proponent, and I always have been as slating in the Marion County Republican Party because it eliminated a primary challenge and a primary fight that would be expensive. And I think that if we went back to a convention style that nominate all of our candidates, either a convention at the county and the state, where you had, like we've talked about Micah Beckwith and his journey for lieutenant governor, he has been able to really attack the campaign in a way where he can get 900 votes in the convention in June and get the nomination. I think we ought to have that, and it goes back to Lugar, former Mayor Lugar, and former Governor Whitcomb were going for the U.S. Senate nomination, and they got it in the convention, and that really was the last convention-oriented nominee
we used to do
contest.
It that way.
We did, and it was a good way to do it, and I think we really missed the boat with this regard. We should go back to a convention.
I agree.
These six, it feels like 16 candidates for governor. It doesn't make sense whatsoever, and it's a snooze fest. It's like I said on State House Happenings, and you all listen to it on Sunday morning at 7:30. But the bottom line is that we need a new campaign where money it doesn't matter. It's the legwork in all 92 counties.
I agree. Tell us about your very fabulous podcast, Merit in the Morning.
Merit in the Morning. We've had, I think 28 podcasts since a year ago, and Brad Klopfenstein and I are working very hard, and we're actually going to have Brian Wilkes, the weather
guy.
Yes, and we're going to have him on May 9th, and many different things this summer. We're not all politics, and we've got great sponsorship, and love Merit in the Morning.
Yeah, find it on Facebook and YouTube, Merit in the Morning. You can see Merit and Klopfenstein.
And we're on Twitter.
Oh, you're on Twitter now, too?
Well, no. Merit. Jim Merritt.
You're on
Jim
Twitter.
_ Merritt.
Jim _ on Twitter. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. It's Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
Tonight on the Tony Kinnett Cast, the Biden administration considers shipping in migrants by the boatload from Hamas-controlled Gaza. Yes, you heard that correctly. Tune in at 7 p.m. right here or the podcast anytime.
I'm a moderate Republican.
That's Jefferson Shreve. Listen to Shreve again as he tries to gain favor with the corporate press and leftist voters.
I'm a moderate Republican.
As the far left wages a culture war, Jefferson Shreve has already surrendered. The NRA gives Shreve an F for his anti-gun policies. Shreve is pro-choice, speaking out against Indiana's pro-life laws. Shreve won't even vote for the GOP nominee, President Donald J. Trump, telling the Indy Star, quote, if Trump becomes the Republican presidential nominee, he would not have Shreve's vote.
I'm a moderate Republican.
We don't need another moderate who will fight against conservatives and President Trump. We need a conservative champion. Mike Speedy is the only candidate who is both endorsed by Indiana Right to Life and is A+ rated by the NRA. Mike Speedy also endorses President Trump and will help him deport illegals. Paid for by Mike Speedy for Congress.
I'm Mike Speedy. I'm running for Congress, and I approve this message.
According to a 2023 Gallup poll, 71% of non-retired adults are worried about retirement saving. At Howard Bailey Financial, we don't believe retiring with confidence should be guesswork. In fact, our mission is to help you gain clarity and purpose and elevate meaning in your life through personal and practical financial strategies. That's why we provide our Retire with Purpose toolkit at no cost. In it, you'll find valuable information on minimizing taxes, maximizing Social Security, and building a retirement income you won't outlive. To receive your complimentary toolkit, text CLARITY to 866-482-9559. Take a step toward a more confident retirement with Howard Bailey Financial and text CLARITY to 866-482-9559.
This endorsement was not provided by a client of Howard Bailey. This individual was compensated for this endorsement. For more information, visit howardbailey.com/TS1.
She isn't working for us, so who is Victoria Spartz working for in Congress? Victoria Spartz said she'd fight the radical left, but spoke in defense of the squad's Ilhan Omar and refused to officially condemn Rashida Tlaib after her hateful, anti-Semitic statements. While there's an invasion on our southern border, Spartz votes to send $40 billion of our tax dollars to Ukraine. Victoria Spartz also says she stands with President Trump. Truth is, Spartz stated it's irrelevant who the president is and helps the Biden administration pass their agenda. Chuck Goodrich is an America First conservative. Chuck built a business that hires and builds American, and Chuck voted to end sanctuary cities. Chuck puts our national defense first by banning any Chinese presence near our military and National Guard bases. Chuck Goodrich fights for our values, voting to protect female sports and keep biological males from competing against young women in Indiana. Vote Chuck Goodrich for Congress. Paid for by Go with Chuck Goodrich.
I'm Chuck Goodrich, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
That moment when you realize you have a serious air conditioner issue. A real strip down to your skivvies, no one's sleeping tonight, head in the freezer fail party. But fear not. There's an expert for that.
Let your local experts at Broad Ripple Service Experts keep you cool with $50 off any repair.
Want to chill? There's an expert for that.
Call Broad Ripple Service Experts at 866-EXPERTS. See website for license details.
Housing affordability taking its toll on most would-be home buyers.
No kidding, Casey, you don't say.
I do say. It is 12 minutes in front of 10. It's Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC. Why is it taking its toll? Well, they just say, hey, we can't afford it. And that is a new study, a survey that was released by Bankrate. They said 78% of home buyers cited financial factors as what is holding them back from buying a house.
Well, and this is the most government thing ever, because remember what caused the housing collapse of 2008, set in motion long before that, was the government tried to put everybody in a home. And the government incentivized and created a financial climate that was unsustainable because everyone must be in a home.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they wrecked the economy. And it takes, all of these years for the thing to reset itself. It never, in many cases, fully ever did reset itself in many communities. And then you go to 2020, and then they do it again. I think this is what pisses me off so much, is the government keeps doing it. It is not the fault of society, it's the fault of the government. Of course, society puts the government in charge, so maybe it is our fault. But
you have no one to blame but yourself, based on how you voted.
This is totally done based on the government artificially manipulating interest rates, which spiked prices due to the government shutting down society and wanting people to believe that they could somehow magically shut down society and not inflict immense pain on society. Mm-hmm. And you look at the entire time during COVID, that's what governments did. They came up with shell games, with manipulations, with basically fraud to convince people that we could shut society. Look at what we're going through here in the state of Indiana now with this Medicaid issue, where Holcomb jams all these people and all these expanded Medicaid programs because he wanted you to believe I can shut society down and you won't feel pain. And you can mask that for a little bit, right? I mean, it's like American greed. The con works for a while before it falls over on itself because you can't keep paying all the people back if you're living a lavish lifestyle, which is what usually does the con man in. It's exactly what our government did here, where they get all these people on Medicaid and then, oh crap, The federal government cut off the money spigot. Well, now all you severely disabled kids, you're out of here. And it's the same thing with the housing market, where they artificially spike these prices because money becomes so cheap that once money becomes cheap, now not only do you have regular people in the housing buying game, you've got these mega corporations who can always outbid the regular people. So now you've spiked the price of the house. Well, now the person who bought the house at a cheap interest rate, they're stuck because they can't sell the house for what they bought it for. Or if you want to be in the game now, you've got to buy it for what they bought it for. Well, because we had to try to undo all the crap that the government pulled, now interest rates are unaffordable. So now everybody's houses get assessed at higher values if you can figure out how the assessment process works, which I maintain many of the people who even work in the assessor's office probably can't figure it out. And now you're stuck paying enhanced property taxes. Oh, and also now your insurance goes up because the replacement value is markedly more expensive. So you can't afford the insurance, you can't afford the taxes, and you can't afford to buy the home. Did I give a pretty good synopsis there?
Yep, you got it. And it's a circle, and it just keeps going around. So when people were asked why they're not buying a new house, 56% said, well, they have insufficient income, followed by home prices being too high, which was at 47%. And then an inability to afford the down payment or the closing cost is at 42%. And it's like you were lamenting yesterday. How do you get ahead? How do you save for that down payment when you're just trying to get by? 7% mortgage rates right now is keeping a lot of people out. And we set a new record. The average monthly house payment is now $2,700, which is an 11% increase from last year.
Ron Paul said this years ago, and it is amazing the things that you will remember. And I remember it at the time of thinking that sounds sort of ludicrous, but as with many things with Ron Paul, it becomes more and more reality. And they were talking about border security. And this must have been, I think this was 2012 when he was running for president again. And they were talking about the idea of building the wall. And one of the things Ron Paul said is that society should be as concerned or more concerned with the government trying to keep you from getting out as they should people getting in. And what he was talking about was the greatest freedom you have is movement. And if the government wants to control its people, they cut off the ability to move, access to movement, access of choice, access to have competition. And that's what we are now creating in this marketplace as it relates to housing is we are cutting off competition because people can't afford to get into the game, into the process. So you have fewer and fewer people who are buying, and people like me, I would love nothing more, Casey. I would love nothing more than to get out of that hellhole that I live in on the west side of Indianapolis, better known as Warehouseburg. There's nothing more that I would like than to get out of there. Can't do it right now. My interest rate is so much lower than what I would pay today that even though I have equity in my home and everything else,
you're locked in.
I can't afford to do it.
Right.
They'd like to get rid of me and I'd like to get rid of them. And we can't mutually come together and get me the heck out of that place because financially it's unfeasible.
Well, and we've talked about housing availability and how the older set typically would downsize and move into a smaller place, freeing up the larger homes for families. But now the older set's not moving out of these larger homes. And it's probably a good thing because in many cases, their children are now moving in with them.
And let's talk about the other thing real quick. And I know we got to get to a break. But because of the way that the government in the state of Indiana has structured the investments from these mega corporations, the overwhelming majority of them are coming into a highly consolidated area. So everybody is moving into a highly consolidated area, which is driving the price up. And in the case of the property taxes, is screwing it for lifelong residents of communities like me because everybody is buying these houses at inflated prices. So you're forced to pay higher property taxes.
26% of people said that they would be willing to move farther away from their loved ones if they had to, and they would consider downsizing or buying a fixer-upper just to get into the game. It's Kendall and Casey.
They can't do it.
No, not with a 7% mortgage rate. It's Kendall and Casey. It's 93 WIBC.
Hi, this is Denny Smith, and I'm one of the city's biggest fans of Zerorez because they clean my carpets and floors with care and expertise like no one else. Zero Res, as in zero residue, uses the patented ZR water that cleans things without the dirt-attracting soaps and chemicals that other carpet cleaners use. For me, I'm the ZR water fan because there's no soap, no residue, and no harsh chemicals. And it's not just me. Check out the 4,500 raving customer reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating. During the month of May, you can get 3 rooms zero resified starting at just $149 and take 20% off all the other services. Companies coming for Mother's Day and graduations. It's a great time to do it. The Zero Res service is easy to line up, and you can go online at zeroresindy.com to do the scheduling at your convenience. Now mention WIBC, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaning starting at $149, plus you'll get 20% off all their other services. Call 317-388-5141. Book things online at zeroresindy.com.
Hey, it's Rob. Why did I choose We Grow Hair Indie to grow my hair back? Simple. They have the best results. Darren Andrews, as clinic director, can you tell us how you get those amazing results that we see on WeGrowHairIndie.com?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Well, it's not just one thing that brings great results. At We Grow Hair Indie, there are 3 things. 1, our microscopic evaluation helps us create the right treatment plan. 2, the best procedure can give you the best results. We're one of only 2 clinics in the entire country to offer the Artis robotic FUE procedure and the multi-unit hair grafting procedure.
And I know number 3 is the follow-up care to make sure I'm getting the results I expected. Stay tuned, guys, and watch my hair grow back on my VIP page at WeGrowHairIndie.com. Call 317-522-2995 for your first step, a free evaluation. That's 317-522-2995. Get the results you want and grow your hair back.
Mecum Auctions, the world's largest collector car auction company, returns to Indy with Dana Mecum's 37th Original Spring Classic, May 10th through the 18th at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. 3,000 muscle cars, Corvettes, exotics, and more. Broadcast on Motor Trend TV and streaming live on Max. From avid collectors to those new to the Mecum experience, we welcome everyone. Register to bid now at Mecum.com.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
Or you did become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to LifeLock.com.
Hello, Indianapolis. This is your City County Councilor, Leroy Robinson. As a former public school teacher, school administrator, and dedicated servant to the Indianapolis Public School Board of Commissioners and the former state director for the Indiana Department of Education, I've committed my entire life to enhancing our community's educational foundation. With that commitment, working alongside Rise Indy, we encourage you to vote this Tuesday, May 7th.
This message sponsored and paid for by Rise Indy.
Coming up in 2 minutes, why a man is dead at a apartment complex in Beech Grove. Plus, Donnie Burgess reports on the charges against an accused arsonist and how ticket sales are progressing for this year's Indy 500. That and more coming up from the Technology Recyclers studios after Fox News Radio. You're listening to 93 WIBC at WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. It's 10 o'clock.
This is a Fox News alert. More Gaza solidarity encampments being broken up on college campuses. I'm Dave Anthony. Palestine will be free. That's at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, where some protesters have just been handcuffed. Tents have also been taken down at Tulane in New Orleans, hours after Columbia called the cops in New York City.
At their request, we went in and conducted an operation to allow Columbia University to remove those who have turned the peaceful protest into a place where anti-Semitism and anti-Israel attitudes were pervasive.
That was Mayor Eric Adams a short time ago saying outside agitators helped escalate the campus protest. There were about 300 arrests as police cleared out camps at City College and Columbia and removed students and others who had barricaded themselves inside a Columbia building. And UCLA, ironically, Those peaceful protest chants were right before fights broke out early this morning when pro-Israeli demonstrators showed up.
They were met by sticks and bats, pepper and bear spray. Private security in T-shirts the university had hired did not intervene. So a ball broke out really on the lawn just outside the encampment, both sides giving and getting equally, some in helmets with shields. And by all accounts, there was a mix of students and outsiders. The pro-Palestinian group repelled the counter-demonstrators with pallets, plywood laced with nails. They were hitting and shoving.
Fox's William Lajeunesse at UCLA says it took police about 3 hours to respond. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Tel Aviv, urging Israel to do more to help the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, as he also urges Hamas to accept a new ceasefire proposal. Now, former President Trump is calling for an end to campus violence, and he'll campaign today in Michigan and Wisconsin on an off day at the Trump criminal trial. Vice President Harris will go to Florida to denounce that state's new law in effect today, banning most abortions 6 weeks into pregnancy. America's listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
What led to the shooting? Radar is clear. It's partly cloudy and 68 downtown. I'm Kirk Darling. Here's what's trending at 10:02. Police in Beech Grove shot and killed a man early this morning. It was around 6 when police say a man came early to a visitation with his kids. He and the mother got into an argument and the cops had to be called. As the situation progressed, Police Chief Tom Hurley says that the man pulled a knife on them, so they opened fire.
Today we had 3 officers that were involved in this. They're going to have to be cleared by an internal investigation and a criminal investigation as well to make sure that there's no wrongdoing on our part.
A small plane crashed in Bartholomew County Tuesday evening. There were 2 people aboard the plane, and both were able to walk away from the crash near Columbus. The FAA and NTSB now looking into why the plane went down. Brown liquid on the floor and bright orange flames in the sky. Donnie Burgess reports on the Indigo bus burning suspect.
DeMarcus McLeod was a regular on the bus, say witnesses. When the Indigo bus made a stop near 38th and Meridian last Wednesday, witnesses say McLeod stood up, poured a jug of brown liquid on the ground, lit a piece of paper, and threw it down, causing a fireball to burst throughout the bus. The driver got everyone off the bus, and McLeod apparently ran across the street to McDonald's. That's where he was found by Indianapolis police. Now McLeod faces 3 counts of arson. Donnie Burgess, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
Marijuana is still illegal in Indiana, and it will remain so, even if the Biden administration succeeds in reclassifying pot as a Schedule 3 drug. It's Schedule 1 right now. State Senator Greg Taylor tells Wish TV that 38 states have legalized pot in some form or fashion.
I don't think it's far-fetched to allow us to do the same thing.
If the DOJ reschedules pot, it would be on par with Tylenol, cough syrup, and Suboxone. Tickets are going fast for the Indy 500.
Ticket sales are super strong. We're about 15,000 tickets up over last year this same day leading in.
IMS President Doug Bowles says that there is an outside chance that they will sell out all reserved seats, so he urges you to get your tickets ASAP. I'm Kirk Darling, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Hey, it's Hammer Nigel, and look, if you're over 60 and you've not filed for Social Security, there's some stats you might want to know about.
Did you know that 96% of Americans forfeit an average of $111,000 in Social Security income?
Wow, and it's because they file for their benefits at the wrong time. Now, you could learn how you could wring every nickel out of the benefits with a free customized Social Security analysis from Bill Demery. He's your retirement guy right here in Indy.
The free analysis makes filing for Social Security as easy as it can be, and it could help ensure you get the last penny out of the benefits that are rightfully yours.
So if you've saved more than $200,000 for retirement and you've not filed for Social Security, call now, 317-648-5120. That's 648-5120. Schedule your free analysis by calling Bill Demery at 648-5120. And tell him Hammer and Nigel sent you.
This hour on WIBC, powered by Sundown Gardens, Hamilton County's spring nursery headquarters.
You're listening to Rob Kendall.
When we talk about sending money somewhere, we're talking about printing the money because we have no money.
And Casey Daniels.
My government would never lie to me, would they?
On 93 WIBC.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 1st. It is 5 minutes after 10. You're listening to Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC. So Donald Trump going to make his way back on the campaign trail. This is the first time since that New York hush money trial began. He's going to make stops in Wisconsin and in Michigan, two battleground states. He won both of them in 2016, but he lost them in 2020. What will happen this year? To be determined. He's also on the cover of Time magazine, and he did a really, really long interview.
Why? Why does he keep talking to people?
Why does he keep talking to Time magazine? Because if you read the article, you can tell it is clearly biased.
This is the conversation you and I have had now for the past couple of years on this program, which is Trump is his own worst enemy because he cannot seem to get it through his head that he's no longer some celebrity businessman or television show host. He lived in this world where these people kissed his ass and said great things about him, and he got all sorts of positive publicity because he was this larger-than-life businessman and television character. That's not the thing anymore. Like he's never pivoted out of being entertainer or businessman, celebrity businessman Donald Trump, and he can't figure it out that every time he does one of these interviews, whether it's with these magazines or the television stations or whatever, that he's opening himself up. Mm-hmm. You're at the mercy of the interviewer, and these people are not your friend. And what vote does he win? This would be my question for Trump. What vote do you think you're winning by doing an interview with Time magazine? How many people do you think are going to be on the fence about you, and then they're going to read that article?
And it's going to sway you.
Yeah, what are the odds that Time magazine is going to write a piece that's going to be favorable about you?
And it really wasn't. And if you read the article, you can tell that the writer had their own agenda. And I guess in Trump's mind, he's thinking, hey, it's my face on Time magazine.
But this is the point, Casey. He has to know by now that these people are out to get him. And if he chooses to engage in that interview, in that process, knowing you're engaging with people who are going to get you and knowing the track record of how this goes for you, and you do it anyway, you can't blame the people that are doing the thing. Mm-hmm. You know what they are. And if you choose to engage with them knowing what they are, and they do the thing that you know they're going to do, then that's 100% on you. And this is another example of what we talk about with when you are the candidate for president of the United States. Your responsibility is to something so much bigger than yourself. Everything has to be about, does this help me? How and why? And Trump, it appears, as you said, the only thing he cares about is seeing himself and hearing himself.
Okay, well, as I tried to decipher through the article, we talk a lot about what is he running on? What is his platform? What does he want to get done? Many things did come out in this interview. Now, the writer, of course, slanted it.
Right.
But I'm going to try and get through some of the things that were mentioned in the interview that he wants to accomplish as president. Okay. He said that he would remove more than 11 million illegals from the country.
Did he say how?
No.
Okay.
He would be willing to build migrant detention camps and deploy the U.S. military both at the border and inland.
Okay.
Didn't say how. He said he would reinstall Remain in Mexico. He said that he would let red states monitor the abortion laws. So he's not going to readdress Roe v. Wade.
And again, we've had this conversation before. I think that, there's just a lot of people who don't want to hear this, but I think given the hand he's currently dealt in terms of what a Senate would look like, which is what you're going to need in order to get anything passed. I don't even think you can get it through the House either. But look, a national abortion ban is just not happening. And if it's not happening, are you going to die on a hill that you can't pass something and it's going to only alienate people who you're going to need going forward? When the Supreme Court said it's a state's issue, why wouldn't you go down that track and spend your time and effort if you can't get it through nationally? Why wouldn't you spend your time and effort trying to win in those states to make those individual states more pro-life? You can accomplish the same thing more than one way.
It's like he doesn't want to talk about that issue anymore. In his mind, it's done.
Look, there's a lot of people who don't want to have this conversation, but the Supreme Court said what it is. It's a states' rights issue. And if you don't have the votes necessary, nor would you be even close to get it through in the Senate. Why wouldn't you spend the time and effort on that topic where you can actually win?
He also said at his personal discretion, he would withhold funds appropriated by Congress.
He would what?
He would withhold funds appropriated by Congress.
See, this is dangerous, Casey, because, again, that's not how it's supposed to work. Right. I mean, look, Biden does this stuff, but that's not the way it's supposed to work. You are not a czar. You do not just get to make things up as you go. Now, they do it all the time, but that is infuriating that he would say that.
He said he'd be willing to fire a U.S. attorney. He wasn't specific about which one. He is weighing pardons for people accused of attacking the Capitol on January 6th. He said he would gut the U.S. Civil Service, deploy the National Guard to American cities as he sees fit, and he would close the White House Pandemic Preparedness Office. Didn't even know that there was one still operating. He might not come to aid of an attacked ally in Europe or Asia if he felt the country wasn't paying enough for their own defense. And he is considering, finally, they got to economics.
Oh, good. Very good.
He said he is considering a tariff of more than 10% on all imports and perhaps even a 100% tariff on some Chinese goods. And he would not seek a third term.
So nothing about spending in there?
The only time the conversation talked about economics was the tariff.
Yeah, and see, the reality is Donald Trump is a big government, big spender. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a lunatic on the environment who wants to see me put in jail. Obviously, I can't vote for Joe Biden. I guess I have to vote for Trump, I guess, if those are my three choices. I mean, I could maybe also leave it blank, and maybe I'll do that. Maybe. Unless somebody else pops up here.
Maybe.
But I'm not voting for Trump in the primary. I've already said that, and not that it'll matter, but I refuse to vote for Trump in the primary because he hasn't earned my vote. And quite frankly, I'm not sure he's really – I mean, the border stuff is good. He's very strong on the border. He's very strong on foreign policy. His domestic spending stuff is a disaster, and he's clearly learned nothing.
A big portion of the article was about the border and illegals, and very small part of it was about economy. Again, I mean, all he mentioned were the tariffs.
Here would be my question to any person, and this was the question that we posed to Todd Young that day, and at least he was angry enough and offended enough to give an honest answer, which is, without reforming entitlements, how are you going to get federal spending under control? The answer is there is no answer. And so what Trump and the Republicans are basically saying is, if you vote for us, because there are no Republicans in position of authority. Now, there are some in the House and there are a few in the Senate, like the Rand Pauls of the world, but there's no Republican in a position of leadership that is in any way talking about getting spending under control, that is any way talking about fiscal restraint, that is any way talking about necessary changes to entitlements to stop this. How do we get out of this inflation if we keep spending money? And no one has an answer for that, and Trump doesn't either. And so I look at I think this is why there's such a lack of enthusiasm for this presidential election, Casey. I think the people are exhausted because they don't see any hope. Okay, Trump wins, and then what? Like, the economics are not going to get any better. He's not going to stop spending money. I mean, look at the debt. He ran $1 trillion deficits pre-COVID. The people just look at this and go, there's nobody out there fighting for us. There's nobody out there willing to make the hard choices. There's no one out there being honest with us in positions of authority to do something. So why would I engage with any sort of passion in this process?
One thing that was revealed in this article in Time magazine, which we're referencing, is that Donald Trump was with Indiana's Jim Banks right after Mar-a-Lago was raided. They had a meeting, and Jim Banks apparently said, it's being raided by the FBI, and Jim Banks was sure that the meeting was going to be canceled, but then moments later, Trump walked through the doors and said, I need allies there when I'm elected.
We'll see. I mean, Jim Banks has been endorsed by Eric Holcomb and Todd Young, and if you think those are the sort of people that are going to stand with Donald Trump, then okay. I don't think Todd Young has a very good track record of standing with Donald Trump, but you can think either Todd Young is endorsing people that'll do the exact opposite of him, or he's endorsing people that he thinks will be more like him. And I guess that's up for each individual to decide, and time will tell.
Okay, let's shift gears and go to Biden really quick, who said really nothing about what's going on the college campuses. What he did come out with yesterday was that they are moving to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug, and they're not going to legalize it outright, but they're reviewing it and making it not on the same level as cocaine and heroin.
So it's still illegal, but it's less illegal. Did I parse through that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Congratulations.
It would recognize the medical uses of marijuana and says that it has less potential for abuse than other drugs.
This conversation, Casey, has been going on forever, and it is so stupid. It is so stupid that we, like in this state, we force people into getting hooked on dangerous opioids, and then we turn around and spend tens of millions of dollars every single year to get people off these dangerous opioids that we force them to get hooked on because we don't allow a doctor and patient to make an informed decision together on other means of treatment. We're supposed to have a take on everything. My take at this point is it's just exhausting, and the stranglehold that the big pharma corporations have on these lawmakers, that they will not allow people to make medical choices and have the medical freedom that should be bestowed on every person between themselves and their doctor. It's gross.
One other thing I wanted to mention that happened yesterday, and this was our Attorney General, Todd Rokita. He put out that his office, along with five other states, are suing the Department of Education, and that is to protect the rights of Hoosier women and girls. He said that Biden's radical rewrite of Title IX is anti-woman and exactly the kind of discrimination this law was originally intended to remedy.
You're a woman.
I am. Thank you for noticing.
So
even though Tony Katz's producer, Carl, said I was a good man.
Yes, Carl called you a good man earlier or something to that effect.
Uh-huh.
What do you think the play is from Biden on wanting, or the Democrats or the left on wanting men to be in women's sports? Because women have always been a strong constituency of the Democrat Party, more so than men.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't you do they not think that risks alienating women? Do they just not think there's going to be any political ramification? As a woman, why do you think that the Democrats are so wed to letting people with penises play women's sports?
I don't know. I think it's just part of furthering their perverse, view of.
But everything to them is about
people and women.
But everything to them, because most of them are Marxists and communists and radical leftists that make up the power structure of the Democrat Party. And Biden's clearly following his marching orders from them. And to those people, power is the thing that matters most. What is the power? What do you think is the win to power? Like, how do you obtain power or hold on to power by saying, yeah, if you're a man, you should be able to beat the crap out of women in a game of, swimming, or it's a swimming match, or you get what I'm saying? Like, what is the win there with that?
I have to imagine that they believe it's all part of equality, right? But that's the exact reason that Title IX was made. So, in essence, they're undoing the whole point of it.
But what is equal about someone with a penis playing against someone who doesn't have a penis?
No, I
realize I'm asking you to work through an illogical thought process, but I am perplexed when the women have always made up such a kind of strong core of the Democrats, and a lot of times in close elections, you'll see women tip the scale, usually in favor of the Democrats. Why you would risk alienating them? Because what is the win? Like, what percentage of the voting populace says, I'm super sympathetic to transsexuals, and I'm super
it's like
sympathetic
less
to
than 1%?
Men playing women's sports.
Yeah.
Right. I don't understand that. But maybe it's so radicalized now that it even isn't about power anymore. It's just about insanity.
It's just an abuse of their authority is what it is.
Yeah.
It's Kendall and Casey. It's 93 WIBC.
Like magic, it appears in the sky. A rainbow. Somewhere over that rainbow lurks not bluebirds or dreams. Hidden behind that beauty is trouble.
Get a cone tornado right there.
Don't be fooled.
Tornado on the ground! Confirmed tornado on the ground!
Confirmed tornadoes.
Oh my gosh, look at it.
Oh my God.
This spring, depend on your severe weather station.
Baseball size hail.
93 WIBC.
The problem at our border is not complicated. You know that. The real problem is Congress. They say the right thing, but when it comes to it, well, they sell out. Jefferson Shreve takes nothing, owes no one, and can't be bought. Shreve will finish the wall and fund more patrols. And if they came here illegally, he'll send them back. That's Shreve's plan. Common sense, straightforward, do what needs to be done kind of thinking. And Mike Speedy? Yeah, he's the guy posing at the border in his ads, but he paid tuition for illegals with our tax money. And he gave them driver's licenses too. So how can we trust anything he says on immigration or anything else? And he's taken hundreds of thousands from lobbyists, selling out. So if you care about the border, vote for the guy who can't be bought. Law, order, and a secure border. Jefferson Shreve for Congress.
I'm Jefferson Shreve, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Shreve for Congress.
Well-changing question. Are you keeping as much of your investment gains as possible? High taxes can erode returns quickly, so you need a tax-optimized portfolio. At Creative Planning, our money managers and specialists work together to make sure your portfolio and wealth are managed in a tax-efficient manner. It's what you keep that really matters. Why not give your wealth a second look? Book your free meeting today at creativeplanning.com. Creative Planning, a richer way to wealth.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
Are you to become a victim?
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
Building a better future for Hoosiers is going to take an outsider. Brad Chambers is the only candidate for governor who's not a career politician. And only Brad Chambers built a national business from nothing. As Secretary of Commerce, Brad Chambers broke records for job growth all across the state. Jobs with wages higher than ever before. Because of Brad Chambers, higher wages are on the way. And only Brad Chambers can keep them coming.
Paid for by Chambers for Indiana.
Go where the pros go. Drexel Interiors for Timberlake Kitchen and Bath Cabinets. Visit Drexel's new design center on 146th Street at River Road or on North Shadeland. DrexelIN.com.
Tired of hearing Rob talk about all the bad news? Time to find your happy place. Turn that frown upside down. It's time for Rainbows with Rob.
You thought this was pretty good.
I don't know. We had a debate on whether this was a good story or not. Was it happy?
Well, a chance for people to see me in public.
Okay. So this is the portion of the program where Rob Kendall is positive and uplifting, and I don't know. I think we have a debate about whether this one qualifies.
You don't think it's positive that people get to see me out in public if they know I'm going to be somewhere?
If you say so.
Well, I'm just saying we usually do pretty good with the crowd. Remember we did that thing for Micah a couple weeks ago, and there's like 100 people showed up.
Okay, so where are you going to be? What are you doing?
Well, I got a ticket. Somebody got me a ticket to the Hamilton County Lincoln, I guess it's a Lincoln Day dinner. It's some sort of big shindig where all the, big-time muckety mucks are going to be at tomorrow night. And I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I would just like to say that any person who wants to come up and have a fun conversation, I'm going to be there. And I'll be on my just absolute best behavior. And I look forward to meeting everyone. I don't even know where it's at. I got to look on my...
I was just going to ask you when and where is this event?
It's tomorrow night. I know that. You know how I am, Casey. I wake up day of and I'm like, okay, I got this to do. Hamilton County... Lincoln Day Dinner 2024. Here we go. Oh, boy, this seems like the Embassy Suites. Yeah, May 2. That's tomorrow. At the Embassy Suites Conference Center in Noblesville. Okay, very good. I think I've been there before. I know where to find that.
And do you know who the featured speaker is?
Ramaswamy.
Vivek?
Yeah, your boyfriend.
Really?
Yeah, look, did you see her perk up?
No, I want to go.
Well, maybe you just go in my place. People would probably rather talk to you. Now, I just have a basic ticket to go to this thing. I'm not one of the
You're not VIP.
high rollers.
Right.
I actually was going to be a high roller, and then the person who had the ticket decided they could go, but they wanted me to go too. So then they got a non-high roller ticket.
So what does that mean? If you're a non-high roller, you're in the back of the room?
No, I just think you don't get the free drinks and the, VIP red carpet. And
so you won't be surrounded by velvet stanchions.
No.
You're just going to be accessible to everyone.
But, and this really enrages the establishment of the Republican Party, that when we go out to these things, people love to come up and talk to us. They love to tell us they listen to the show. They love to tell us how we're right. And the Republicans hate that because the Republicans are invested in cutting off debate and thought. They want you to believe that they are right, that what they're doing is correct, and there's no other way about it. So my offer is, whether it's Jerry Torr or Chris Jeter or Todd Houston or any of the Good Time Fun Gang that represents Hamilton County in the Indiana General Assembly, I will be there. And if you want to have a very frank and polite and honest discussion about property taxes, I promise you, if you want to have that discussion tomorrow, we can fix it in less than 30 minutes. So, and we'll do it in public. We'll do it in front of everyone. We let everybody see it. We'll have a fun little conversation. They can film it if they want. And then maybe we'll actually get a solution. Now, I have a feeling they're not going to take me up on that offer, but I will be there, and I will be open for any person who wants to come up and have a fun conversation, Casey.
You could invite Mr. Ramaswamy to get involved in your conversation.
Well, I don't think he's really going to care at all about property taxes in the state of Indiana, and that's not his obligation. You know whose obligation it is, Casey? Chris Jeter and Jerry Torr and Todd Houston. Yeah. So I'm just putting it out there. I'll be there tomorrow, and I look forward to meeting and seeing everyone, and hopefully some of these decision maker, big time power players in the GOP will take me up on my offer, and we'll discuss how how the people are hurting, and maybe some of the things we can do to fix that.
You don't want to tell us who you're going with? Is that top secret?
I wouldn't ruin that person's reputation.
Yeah, I figured as much.
That.
But are you? I'm expecting that Vivek will be somewhat of a dynamic speaker, and I think you might be impressed. Are you expecting good things from him, or you're just whatever?
Oh, I expect nothing but the best at a Indiana Republican Party event, Casey. I have absolutely no doubt that I will be blown away.
Your rubber chicken dinner?
But no, I love every so often when I get out of the house, meeting all of our listeners, and so I'm looking for that tomorrow. And that was kind of a feel-good story, wasn't it?
I feel much better now. We've got your voicemails coming up. It's Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
Your nose is for breathing. Your mouth is for eating. And if you're breathing through your mouth, it's not because your body wants to. It's because it has to, because your nose isn't working properly. And although you've lived like this, it's no way to live, and it's having a significant impact on your life. I know you know this, and I know that taking action isn't always convenient. But at Advent, we've done all we can to make changing your life for the better as easy as possible. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. With tens of thousands of our patients, a thorough breathing triangle evaluation, along with a simple 20-minute in-office procedure called balloon sinuplasty, has opened their nasal passages, allowing them to breathe freely through their nose for good. And there's a good chance this procedure can do the same for you. We'll help you breathe through your nose again, and it will change your life.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better. Results may vary.
Bill Frazier is a Hoosier, an American, who has served our citizens with distinction, determination, and a wisdom that comes with years of experience. Now, Bill Frazier is ready to dedicate his life to serving you as your next congressman in Indiana's 6th District. Bill Frazier is a true conservative. He'll fight for a secure border, smaller government, and lower taxes. He will be a tireless advocate for the Second Amendment and the rights of the unborn. Bill Frazier is a veteran paratrooper, a successful farmer and business owner, a licensed commercial jet pilot, a man with experience. When President Ronald Reagan needed expert advice on agricultural issues, he called on a young Hoosier farmer, Bill Frazier. Ronald Reagan trusted Bill Frazier. You can too. Vote for experience and determination. Vote for the true conservative Hoosier. Vote for Bill Frazier for Congress.
I'm Bill Frazier, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Friends of Bill Frazier.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Fighting and arrests. Radar is clear. It's partly cloudy, 70 degrees downtown. I'm Kirk Darling. Here's what's trending at 10:30. A campus building taken over by anti-Israel protesters at Columbia has been cleared. NYPD were called in overnight to clear it out. Meanwhile, violence took place on the UCLA campus in LA.
2 a.m. Eastern, roughly, that these brawls, what at times looked like a riot, started. It wasn't until after 5 a.m. Eastern that any law enforcement got onto the campus. Protesters and counter-protesters were attacking each other with wooden poles. They were throwing firecrackers into groups of each other.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt. Harvey Weinstein will be back in court in New York today. Prosecutors say they intend to retry Weinstein after his 2020 rape conviction was overturned by the New York Court of Appeals last week. He remains in custody, though, due to a separate rape conviction from California. I'm Kirk Darling, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Whatever happened to Tony Horton?
2017, I was knocked down. A very rare type of shingles that went straight into my brain. My body was completely wasting away.
So Tony developed high-impact protein by Power Life.
Add 1 scoop of high-impact protein to a glass of water, HMB plus vitamin D3. They go to work reshaping your body.
Go to mypowerlife.com and use code FUEL to save 30%. Text FUEL to 511-511 today. All individuals are unique. Your results can and will vary. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Hey guys, it's Rob from my friends at Life Church. Man, it is Wednesday, and that means Sunday's going to be here before you know it. And this Sunday, if you're looking for a new church home or even a first church home, check out my friends at Life Church. Over the years, many WIBC listeners have found a home at Life Church. We're one of them. And I think one of the biggest reasons is at Life Church, you're not just a number, you're an individual. They're warm, they're welcoming, they make you feel like family. Life Church has campuses all across central Indiana, Noblesville, Fishers, Eagle Creek, and Pendleton, in addition to awesome online services. Learn more about everything, lifechurchin.com.
Healthcare.gov is here for you when life happens. If you lost your health coverage because of turning 26, going off Medicaid, leaving your job, or moving, you could be eligible to enroll in new coverage now. And if you need to update your coverage because of marriage or having a baby, you could also be eligible. But don't wait. There's a limited time to enroll. Check your eligibility at healthcare.gov today. Life happens. Get covered. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Reggie was a nurse for 16 years.
I had become very burnt out. I wasn't making good money.
Then it happened.
There was an ad for My Computer Career, and it just spoke to me.
My Computer Career was the best decision he ever made.
I could study anywhere from my laptop, and I was working in the first couple weeks of me being in class.
Reggie hit a home run.
The field is teeming with jobs.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
The school is amazing.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Mother's Day is almost here. Miss M's Home and Garden is fully stocked with high-quality annuals, trees, shrubs, decor, and more. State Road 135 in Bargersville.
Do you need air conditioning service and need to find a local well-trained expert you can trust, like B&W Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning? Find that American Standard Air dealer at IndyHomeComfort.com.
You're listening to the Kendall and Casey Show on 93 WIBC. It's time to hear from you. Kendall and Casey present Voicemails. Brought to you by QC Kinetics for non-surgical regenerative medicine treatment at 317-559-PAIN.
The phone number to get involved, 317-684-8444. It is Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC, and a lot of talk about what's going on university campuses. Of course, IU announced that they had arrested nearly 24 individuals with that ongoing encampment at Dunn Meadow. And we did get a phone call. Somebody had something to say about that.
Hey, good morning, Kendall. This is Mike from Bloomington. Hey, as far as the students that are protesting on campuses, the news media should not even talk to these people until they take their masks down and introduce themselves as with their full name. If they won't do that, don't put them on the air. If they're too embarrassed to do that, who can believe anything they've got to say? Plus, their parents need to see what their children are up to.
Yeah, I haven't really seen a lot of interviews with masked people, but I understand his point that they're all using that as cover to hide their identity.
Oh, yeah. And at first I kind of thought in the beginning, I was like, oh, they're just trying to check as many woke boxes as they can, and they're virtue signaling. But then I kind of come around to that theory that it is about just hiding their face. It's not about them trying to check X amount of woke boxes. They're just cowards.
Right. And how tone deaf, by the way, is the president? Talk about not being able to read the room. Yesterday, he said that his administration is approving a $6.1 billion in student debt transfer for over 300,000 borrowers who attended art institutes. Like, totally the wrong day to be doing that.
You look at the fall of great societies throughout history, Casey, and we are right on path. I mean, you look at the things that caused many of those, great civilizations to fall. And it's things like, no longer having clearly defined borders. It's depleting the money policies that deplete the value of the dollar. It's irresponsible spending. I mean, and, eventually becomes that the people in power become wed to lunatics and maniacs. And I mean, we're following the blueprint. It's very scary.
But to his point, parents need to know what their kids are doing. I wonder. As I was watching a lot of this happen at Columbia and UCLA and University of Texas and everything that was going on, do these people's parents know what they're doing and in many cases what they're paying for?
You know what's interesting though, Casey, is that, like, let's just take Indiana, for example. For all the ads that we have heard on this radio station and all the debates and all the everything that we have heard, whether it's the governor or the Congress or the state house or the state senate, is there one candidate who has come out and they're simply running on all this must stop? Like, it's so simple. It's so simple. If somebody would just come out and say, all of this must stop. It is insane what is going on in this country. It is insane on a federal level. It is insane on a state level. It is insane on a local level. I'm reading a story from IndyStar today, Casey, that Carmel is planning a 61% hike in construction fees to throw money at the Parks Department. All the money that they give, they're going to, when there's going to be this, there's this fee when you build a home in Carmel. You pay for the privilege, I guess, of building a home there. And they're going to raise that under this proposal, according to IndyStar, $3,000 from 4,882 to 7,863, and all of that money is going to be dumped into the Parks Department. It's not like, hey, we're going to give it to the cops. There's been a crime spree in Carmel. It's going to go to the Parks Department, and it's like it never ends. It never ends, and there's nobody. There's nobody. Think about all these ads Shreve and Speedy are running, or these ads that Goodrich and Sparks are running, or these candidates for governor are running. Not one of them is like, elect me, and we're going to cut to crap. We're going to stop all this. We're going to stop spending the money. We're going to stop, growing the government. Nobody's running on any of this.
Jefferson Shreve, what did he put out? He said, our country's a mess. We need law and order and a secure border. But again, nothing about stopping spending.
And what are you going to do? How are you going to do that? Nobody believes in any of these people. And that's why you're seeing, Abdul's going to join us later on in the program. We got into this on State House Happenings, how anemic in Marion County the voter turnout has been. You're talking like 4 times fewer voters than what you had in the municipal primary last year. People just don't see a point of participating anymore because they don't believe in any of these people. They don't believe that anybody cares about them. They don't believe that anybody's fighting for them. And nobody, whether it's these governor or state house candidates, is running on cutting the crap.
Kevin, can you pull up the phone call? It's called Vote. It's
that seems pretty simplistic.
Right? Do you have it? Yeah. Okay. So going right along with what you're saying, here's this phone call.
Hello. So if the Republicans suck and the Democrats are who they are, and if we just elect somebody in there with a different name, a different face, but it's the same person, why even go vote? Can you answer me that? I understand it's my God-given right. Lots of people gave their lives for that. I appreciate that. I understand that. But what's the point if nothing changes?
Did he sum up what you're feeling pretty
Yeah,
succinctly?
he summed up what apparently the majority of America is feeling right now. I mean, look at let's just start at the top, Casey. Look at who the two candidates for president are. They're just two people who are genuinely loathed by the public at large. There are two people, one is in his 80s, one's about to be in his 80s. Both have already been the president. Both have in their own way royally screwed things up. And neither one of them is proposing anything that you would look at and say, wow, the ails that are causing me strife and trauma for my family are going to be fixed if this person was elected. Now let's work our way down, shall we?
Okay.
We didn't even get competition for our U.S. Senate race in Indiana because of some bizarre rule that you have to vote in X amount of primaries in order to be a candidate for that party. However, we have an organization that's blatantly telling Democrats to vote in Republican primaries. So that's cool. But unless you vote in X amount of Republican primaries, then you're not a real Republican.
Well, you can't run.
You're not a real Republican. You can't run.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't even get to vote on that. They took away your right to vote on that. Now let's look at the governor's candidates. The signature issue that everyone is talking about.
Property taxes.
And not one of them, even though they've almost all of them been running for a year, have a concrete plan to help every person that is paying property tax. You have one person who has an interesting economic plan, and no one believes that she intends to enforce or try to do any of that, which is that axe the tax thing from Suzanne Crouch.
She picked the wrong tax.
Now let's look at the people that are running in the state house and the state senate races.
Okay.
Overwhelming majority of them are these incumbents who have caused this problem. Now there are some, like in where I live in Hendricks County, which it must be closer than people think, because I'm getting text daily on these polls. I don't do the online polling, by the way. Like if you call me, I will tell you. If you text me, I assume it's a virus or something and I'm not responding to it. Whether this is just Jeff Thompson race, who, if you want to do something nice for Rob Kendall this spring season, you go and vote against Jeff Thompson if you live in Hendricks County, because he is the head of Ways and Means. He is the guy who controls the money, and he is the guy sitting there with his thumb up his backside as you suffer on property taxes. But other than that race, there's a guy named Joe Baddock running against him, and like Jay Hart is running against one of the Flanders boys, Rod Bray, out there in Martinsville. Most of these races are largely uncontested, which means it's going to be the same group of jokers who's going to get in there, and they're going to pull the same crap. And so people are just like, what's the point?
Yeah, nothing changes.
They're not even lying to us well anymore, Casey.
No.
I talked about this on State House Happenings today. I wish somebody would have at least lied to me about caring about property taxes so I could have just a speck of hope for a few months. I don't even get that anymore.
No.
They don't even lie to you anymore. They just tell you, no, we're not doing anything with that. That's a local issue.
Does it feel like taxation without representation?
It just feels like that, and this is the fault of the Democrats, that the Democrats went so insanely left on the social stuff that they became totally irrelevant. And what happened was the Republicans figured out that it doesn't matter who we put up in a general. We got to snake our way through a primary, and we'll say the right stuff in the primary, but we won't hold ourselves to account. And then once we're in there, it doesn't matter what we do because we won't get voted out.
It's almost like, we can spend all we want as long as we don't sound crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Democrats have been so insane. And it's amazing the Democrats can't figure it out and get it together. And actually, if the Democrats, if Mike Schmuel and the Democrats came out tomorrow and said, we are declaring a truce on social issues, and that means men go to the men's restroom and women go to the women's restroom, and we are not for sucking brains out of, we're not going to change laws to suck brains out of defenseless fetuses. We're letting all that go. We're going to run on the fiscal stuff. They could start winning elections. But the people look at this crap that these Democrats try to pull, and they're like, well, I guess I'd rather lose all my money than let, if I got, elementary school kids, let men in the women's restrooms. I mean, it's just, what's the point?
Okay, one more phone call, and this one's on the lighter side before Hammer's going to join us. And Gert called yesterday and asked us about decrumbing her toaster. Apparently, this is the thing now.
Hey, Rob and Casey, it's Mailman Paul. I was just listening to you on 93.1 WIBC talking about emptying your toaster. Well, on the bottom of your toaster, there is a crumb pan. It'll either slide out or pop open. So you take that out, wipe it down, and put it back in.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Only on this show could we go from voting to your crumb.
So you're not just supposed to bang it up against the...
Yeah, that sounds a lot better than just sticking a knife in there.
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. Don't do that. By the way, I did decrumb my toaster yesterday because of Gert's phone call.
I knew you would.
Yeah.
I knew you would.
I did it. It is Kendall Casey. It's 93 WIBC.
Big Hammer and Nigel show this afternoon, the biggest stories of the day, and we're going to have a good time. We like to laugh. I hope you join us. We start after the news at 3, right here on 93 WIBC.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Sinus pain. You know it all too well. It's constant. It's frustrating. The pressure, the headaches, the snoring, the constant clogged feeling. You're tired of feeling like this, but you've tried nasal sprays, over-the-counter medicines, even home remedies. No matter what you try, nothing gives you lasting sinus relief. You're tired of missing out and feeling miserable. There is something you can do. Something different. Indianapolis Sinus Center. The physicians at Indianapolis Sinus Center have been serving the community with proven treatments for over 50 years. They know what you're going through, and they're standing by ready to offer you the best treatments to provide long-term relief. Breathe better. You don't have to keep suffering from sinus pain. Call Indianapolis Sinus Center today at 317-528-9650 and take the first step toward relief. 317-528-9650. That's 317-528-9650 or go to IndianapolisSinusCenter.com.
You've seen Chuck Goodrich's ads. It's time to take the mask off and meet the real Chuck. Get rich. Goodrich allied himself with never-Trumpers and liberals who spent millions to defeat President Trump. And it turns out that Chuck Goodrich lobbied to give amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. Goodrich even bragged about his award as a top 100 woke CEO who hires employees based on race. In the legislature, Goodrich voted to bring critical race theory into our classrooms and to teach our children that America is a racist country. What did crooked Chuck get in return for siding with the liberals? Millions of earmarks. And a law that could put 40 million of our tax dollars into his business. Chuck Goodrich is just another corrupt and liberal sellout. He can't be trusted.
I am Victoria Spartz, candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Victoria Spartz for Congress.
Are you ready to take control of your safety? Premier Arms is the place to consider, and they're more than just a gun store. Premier Arms is a community for empowered women dedicated to helping you find the perfect firearm. Hey, it's Casey Daniels. That's how I felt when I shopped at Premier Arms. I asked them a lot of questions, and you know what? They treated me with respect, and I know I'm going to be making another purchase soon. Premier Arms is in Brownsburg. They're also online at premierarms.com. Their phone number, 317-858-3030.
Whatever happened to Tony Horton?
2017, I was knocked down. A very rare type of shingles that went straight into my brain. My body was completely wasting away.
So Tony developed high-impact protein by Power Life.
Add 1 scoop of high-impact protein to a glass of water, HMB plus vitamin D3. They go to work reshaping your body.
Go to mypowerlife.com and use code FUEL to save 30%. Text FUEL to 511-511 today. All individuals are unique. Your results can and will vary. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Text fees may apply.
Hey guys, it's Rob for my friends at We Grow Hair Indie. And this spring, if you're taking a look in the mirror and saying, man, it's getting a little thin on top, or maybe it's getting a lot thin on top, get your confidence back by making a call to We Grow Hair Indie. I did it over 3 years ago, and I'm so happy that I did. And it's, you know, the We Grow Hair Indie experience. It's the gift that keeps on giving every time you look in the mirror. Darren and the gang at We Grow Hair Indy are first class, top notch all the way, and you come in for a totally free consultation. They take a look at what you got going on up top, and then they give you some suggestions about how they might be able to make that a little bit better. 317-522-2995, 317-522-2995, or head over to WeGrowHairIndy.com, WeGrowHairIndy.com. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain by scheduling that free consultation, and by everything to gain, I mean potentially more hair on the top of your head. WeGrowHairIndy.com. Tell them Rob sent you.
What's the room again?
1240, down at the end.
Ooh, what's that? Sammy, don't touch that. That's someone's old food.
Here we are. Do you have the key?
You have both of ours.
Oh, right. Not working.
Rub it.
Come on.
Try flipping it over.
Seriously. Why can't we go inside? I'm tired.
Give me yours.
You have mine.
All right.
What?
Please, if you
Dad,
could just...
why aren't you opening the door?
Can everyone just shut the...
Don't go there. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing. Learn more at GoRVing.com.
What happened last night? Hammer's got the answer. He joins us in the studio with Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC, 92-115. They didn't pull out the W, huh?
They came out flat. They did not look sharp. There was no intensity, which really stinks because this was a closeout game when Milwaukee did not have their two best players. And it's not just the players, too. This was not a good effort by Rick Carlisle, the head coach.
What is up with these rotations that he runs? He runs these rotations like it is a December Tuesday game, some meaningless game in December. And you've got these other teams that are like running 7 players the whole game. Why? Because it's the playoffs, and he is, it seems like, an insistent upon getting as many players in the game as he can, and a bunch of them stink.
All through the year, the Pacers bench has been one of the best in the NBA. Like, they get a big lift from their bench. But last night, as much as I love the dude, McConnell couldn't throw it in the ocean. And he stayed on the court an awful long time while guys like Miles Turner were sitting for an awful long time. I'm with you. You got to ride the hot hand, shorten that rotation up a little bit, and come on, you got to play with more passion than that.
Yeah, and this is he did that game one. He being Carlisle, this bizarro. Everyone must play like it was a t-ball game or something. Everybody gets an at bat, and then I thought he learned his lesson, and then it was kind of back to it again last night. And they got blown out again.
And the frustrating thing is it looked like there was very little energy.
Yeah.
They were low energy Jeb last night, as Donald Trump would say. And you let Milwaukee get going, and you got Patrick Beverly running his mouth. You got Bobby Portis running his mouth, and you let him do it.
Yeah.
So when they come back here on Thursday, now the pressure's on you. You've been the 6th seed and the underdog all series. If the Pacers don't get it done on Thursday, they ain't going back to Milwaukee to win Game 7.
I got to say, I feel a little betrayed because I was going to go over and it was on one of those channels. And, of course, I don't have cable, so I was going to go over to my dad's last night at 9:30. And I feel a little betrayed because all the sports guys, whether it was Jimmy Cook or Sweeney or Bowen, kind of made me feel like, hey, this is in the bag. And I thought 9:30 came around. I said, man, I'm kind of tired. These guys told me. They're the experts. They told me it's in the bag. And then I get some text from you at midnight about, some words I can't even say on this radio station. I thought, what the heck happened?
What happened?
It was a mess. And, again, this is kind of the Pacers, right? When they're expected to lose or be the underdog, they play really well.
Yeah.
But when you expect them to win,
they don't rise to it.
They have a hard time with that. And now Thursday, 6:30 tip-off here in Indy. It's gold out, and maybe Giannis plays. I don't know. Maybe Dame Lillard. I don't know. But the more time you give their stars to come back, you're in trouble.
Do you think that the hometown energy will help them?
I mean, it's got to be better than what it was last night. I mean, my goodness, that was just a stale, uninspiring effort in a closeout game. Like the opportunity to beat Milwaukee when they're defeated, when they don't have their 2 best players, that doesn't come around very often, and they didn't rise to the challenge.
Yeah, and now all the pressure's on the Pacers. I mean, you still got, they're probably not going to have both of those guys. If they have one of them, and then you probably got a limited amount of minutes for Giannis if indeed he does play, but you're at home. None of those games have really been blowouts other than game 2 on the Pacer side. Those 2 at Gainbridge the last couple days, I mean, they were contested games. Sort of the one went overtime. The other one, the score wasn't really reflective of how close most of the game was. So they better bring it.
And if you're going to the game, take all your frustrations out on Milwaukee. If you're upset about these candidates that you have to choose from in the upcoming election,
this is your chance.
If you don't like being put in the position to vote for either Speedy or Shreve, take it out on the Milwaukee Bucks and Bobby Portis and all those guys.
Speaking of that, we talked about this today. What a sorry sack of candidates collectively this year. I don't know if I've ever been less enthusiastic about going to vote.
Yeah, it's not a real strong group, right? Like, there's not one person in there that's like, all right, maybe he's going to get in there and he's going to fix property tax. Maybe he's going to make our lives better. Anytime these dudes have been asked about it, it's been a wishy-washy answer. And then when you look at some of the down ballot races, some of these state house, House Senate seats, man, it's just so uninspiring. You've got, establishment dudes banking on all their money to carry them through, and it's rough.
Yeah, and I think Tom Davies had this article today about how much money the House Republican Committee is pumping in, hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to save some of these endangered House candidates. Now, I know I couldn't get this lucky, but what's our segment called about the rainbows?
Crapping rainbows?
Crapping
Something
rainbows.
like that.
If you want to actually watch me likely crap a rainbow on Wednesday, May the 8th, if Jim Lucas lost in his primary, and I know I couldn't get that lucky, but if you took down Jim Lucas in a primary to some no-name obscure guy, I might actually crap a rainbow on May the 8th.
Well, I'll give you a rainbow, too, if Rod Bray goes down.
Yeah, Jay Hart, our man out there, he's and Jeff Thompson's got some competition, so we might actually get a couple of these. I'm not overly optimistic, though. What's coming up this afternoon?
This afternoon, brace yourselves.
Yeah.
Nigel's out.
What?
So Guy Relford is going to be filling
Fantastic.
in. We got some tickets to give away. We'll do a round of Ask the Gun Guy and have a good time.
Thanks, Hammer. You're listening to Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
What if you could build a six-figure retirement income with almost half the money saved? You heard that right. Get a discount on your retirement creating a six-figure income with 40% less than traditional 401ks and mutual funds. Hi, I'm Brett Kitchen, best-selling author, executive producer, and star in a brand new Hollywood documentary called The Retirement Deception. In this film, we traveled over 20,000 miles interviewing real Americans who've retired successfully with a great lifestyle and peace of mind. They share their stories on how they get more retirement income with the same dollar saved, and the money's never at risk if the market crashes. That's right, if the market crashes 30%, you lose nothing. Even the super wealthy are shifting money to this new strategy because it increases their retirement income or can allow them to stop working years sooner. So if you're over 50 and want a bigger, better retirement with less money saved, call to talk to a specialist and get a free copy of this brand new movie at 800-486-9595. This is a $30 value, but when you call today, you can get it completely free. I'll even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call right now, 1-800-486-9595. That's 1-800-486-9595. Again, that's 1-800-486-9595.
That moment when you realize you've got a plumbing problem, a real pipe-bursting, clogged-up tight, somebody-get-all-the-towels, full-on flush fiasco. But fear not, there's an expert for that.
Trust your local plumbing experts at Broad Ripple Service Experts and save $50 off any plumbing repair.
Plumbing problemos? There's an expert for that.
Call Broad Ripple Service Experts at 866-EXPERTS. See website for license details.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
Hello, Indianapolis. This is your City County Counselor, Leroy Robinson. As a former public school teacher, school administrator, and dedicated servant to the Indianapolis Public School Board of Commissioners and the former state director for the Indiana Department of Education, I've committed my entire life to enhancing our community's educational foundation. With that commitment, working alongside Rise Indy, we encourage you to vote this Tuesday, May 7th.
This message sponsored and paid for by Rise Indy. Go where the pros go. Drexel Interiors for Timberlake Kitchen and Bath Cabinets. Visit Drexel's new design center on 146th Street at River Road or on North Shadeland. DrexelIN.com.
Coming up in 2 minutes, Ryan Hedrick reports on where a man was shot and killed by police, plus reclassifying pot, how it may impact how lawmakers see it here in Indiana, plus the Indiana Pacers come up short, but they have another chance. I'm Kirk Darling. That and more coming up from the Technology Recyclers Studios after Fox News Radio. You're listening to 93 WIBC, WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. It's 11 o'clock.
Cracking down on campuses. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Some of those pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Wisconsin in Madison were arrested this morning as others lock arms. Encampments have been cleared at other campuses like Tulane and New Orleans and in New York City.
This is a global problem that young people are being influenced by those who are professionals at radicalizing our children.
Mayor Eric Adams, the morning after Columbia called the NYPD, and police made about 300 arrests at Columbia and City College as they also removed students and others from a building they were barricaded in at Columbia. At UCLA, that's when police finally arrived 3 hours after fights broke out between pro and anti-Israeli protesters.
So there was no security presence here at all as this large group of 50 to 100 counter demonstrators head over and tried to breach the barricades. And they were met by pepper spray and bear spray. They were met by plywood shields that had nails driven through them. Now, the university had declared this encampment unlawful, but they did not move in. Now they have to live with that decision.
Fox's William Lajeunesse at UCLA. Former President Trump, who campaigned in Wisconsin and Michigan on off day at his criminal trial, is calling for an end to the violence, telling Fox President Biden's got to do something.
Biden is supposed to be the voice of our country, and it's certainly not much of a voice.
Fox's Jackie Heinrichs at the White House.
So far, the president has been silent on this. White House officials have told us how the president feels about these things, but he's gone to some great lengths to avoid saying it himself. Yesterday, heading to a campaign event, the White House had aides physically walking between the president and the press as he made his way to Marine One. And at the event itself yesterday, reporters were not allowed inside.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel for talks pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza and more aid to civilians. America's listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
He ended up dead. Radar is clear. 72 and partly cloudy downtown. I'm Kirk Darling. Here's what's trending at 11:02. A father trying to pick up his child ends with Beech Grove police shooting and killing him. Ryan Hedrick tells you why.
A man showed up at the Willow Glen South Apartments around 6 a.m. when he was actually supposed to get his kid at 6 p.m. Things got heated when the cops showed up. The guy told the police that they would have to kill him. They tried using a taser, but that didn't work. A fight then broke out, and the man cut one of the cops in the face. That's when they shot and killed him. Now 3 cops are on administrative leave. Ryan Hedrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
A man is stable after being shot in the parking lot of an Indy nightclub overnight. Wes Woodward.
That shooting happened at Club Paradise, located near South Brookville Road and Emerson Avenue. A fight apparently started inside the club before moving outside and ending with the shooting. Police arrived around 3 a.m., and the victim was taken to Eskenazi Hospital. Police aren't sure what led up to the disturbance, and no arrests have been made. Wes Woodward, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
Marijuana is still a touchy subject, but it may be a little less touchy soon, as the White House wants the DOJ to reclassify pot as a Schedule III drug. It's Schedule I now, but rescheduling it would put it on par with drugs like Tylenol. State Senator Greg Taylor.
There are 38 states who have some form of cannabis policy that regulates the use of cannabis like we do, for example, with alcohol.
He says rescheduling would not make it legal effectively in Indiana, but he says it bolsters the argument to do so. A small plane crashed in Bartholomew County Tuesday evening. There were 2 people aboard the plane when it went down. They were both able to walk away from the crash. The FAA and NTSB looking into it. The Indiana Pacers could not get the job done last night in Milwaukee. They fell to the Bucks 115-92 in Game 5 of their first-round playoff series. The Pacers can still take the series, though, by winning tomorrow night back here in Indy. I'm Kirk Darling, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
As America's largest injury firm, we have advantages few others do. Our results and reputation are well known to the other side, and we have a track record of going toe-to-toe with them and winning big. But what does that mean for you? What does that mean for your case? I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One of the things we're most proud about is that we set up our firm so that your case gets lots of attention from a lot of people. Our technology and army of lawyers give us insight and oversight into every detail and every moment of your case. Paralegals, legal assistants, investigators, buildings with boxes of evidence. Every resource carefully designed to get you the most possible. And at Morgan & Morgan, we even have a dedicated team to make sure that your calls are returned that very same day. Injured? Dial pound law. That's pound 529. All firms are not the same.
The choice is easy. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
This hour on WIBC is powered by Miss M's Home and Garden, Johnson County Spring Nursery Headquarters.
You're listening to Rob Kendall.
When we talk about sending money somewhere, we're talking about printing the money because we have no money.
And Casey Daniels.
My government would never lie to me, would they?
On 93 WIBC.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 1st. It's 5 minutes after 11 with Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC. So occupying all of the news right now is the occupation and encampments on university campuses. NYPD said that they arrested and charged all of those people who were in Columbia, and they're going to be charged with third-degree burglary, criminal mischief, and also trespassing. And the people that camped out on the lawn at the university would face trespassing and disorderly conduct charges.
But didn't they sort of do this to themselves because New York has been a haven for lawlessness?
Yeah.
They're a sanctuary city. They've invited all these illegals in. Look at what happened during 2020. How many of the people who looted and rioted, destroyed businesses, etc., how many of those people were held to account? Society, naturally, inherently, there are very few people who are actually, without threat of force, behave in a decent and upright manner. I mean, let's face it. Threat of force is how you get a civil, decent society. And by threat of force, I mean, there are ramifications for your actions. There are rules, there are regulations, there's, human decency, especially as it relates to other people's stuff and stuff that is not yours and how you are to treat that. And the only thing that really keeps many people from breaking laws is the threat of consequence. Well, people have been taught repeatedly,
doesn't matter.
There are no consequences.
Right. You can do what you want. It's okay. Well, apparently 119 people were arrested at Columbia, and things got a little more forceful on the campus of UCLA. And it's only a matter of time when you sit there and threaten violence that tempers are going to flare and then violence happens.
Yeah, it's on 100% on these lunatics who, again, it's just like the riots of 2020. The overwhelming majority of those people that were involved in that, it had nothing to do with George Floyd or how black people were being treated. They were using that as an excuse or a catalyst to behave like insane people. And many of the people who in 2020 were brought in, paid for by Marxist communist groups and individuals who wanted to disrupt society. And you're seeing the same thing here. You're not going to get me to believe that there's a gajillion people out there who suddenly are very concerned about the plight of Hamas, right? They're using it as an excuse to be a disruptor, to be an agitator, and they're hoping, quite frankly, they can create the same level of civil unrest that was created in 2020 because they had a positive outcome in terms of the election. Look at how society has changed over the past 4 years. Kevin and I were talking about this the other day during one of our breaks. 2020 seems like 5 decades ago, doesn't it? Like if you think about life pre-COVID and to life today, it seems like some sort of foreign fog or dream or something that, like, remember all those years ago how life existed pre-COVID? It was only 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, or however, 4.5 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, yet it seems like forever that there was some distant land where we lived in a pre-COVID world. Think about all the negative change that has happened. I mean, we are spending a whole bunch of our shows now talking about it. The home evaluations and the property taxes and the affordability of homeowners insurance. Same thing with cars.
And how people don't want to vote because they think it doesn't matter.
It is amazing how much these communists, these Marxists, successfully altered society, and there appears no will on the other side to fight back to bring that pendulum, as we talked about yesterday, back to the middle where it needs to be.
Well, it's like, when you learn something and you see the truth and you wanted to believe it wasn't true, but when it gets shown to you repeatedly over and over again, eventually your eyes have to be open to the fact that, this is reality, and it's kind of depressing sometimes.
It really does feel like, and I don't mean to make light of this, but this is the first thing that came to mind, the scene in Animal House when Bluto gives this, the great speech, what's this lying around expletive? Like, that's kind of where we're at. I feel like we, the decent people, the good people, the conservative people, the law-abiding people, we're like the Delta House, after Warmer drops the big one, I just feel like we're just looking for someone to be a leader and say, I will lead. I will be the guy who will lead this charge to cut the crap and to restore America and restore governments to where they need to be. Where is the next Reagan revolution? Where is the next contract with America? It just simply, those people are not existing right now.
Well, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, he definitely took a position on the protests at college campuses, but doesn't really do anything. So that sounds about right.
Anti-Semitism is a virus, and because the administration and woke university presidents aren't stepping in, we're seeing it spread. We have to act, and House Republicans will speak to this fateful moment with moral clarity. We really wish those in the White House would do the same. We will not allow anti-Semitism to thrive on campus, and we will hold these universities accountable for their failure to protect Jewish students on campus. And that's why today we're here to announce a house-wide effort to crack down on anti-Semitism on college campuses. Nearly every committee here has a role to play in these efforts to stop the madness that has ensued.
Okay, so he says we're announcing a house-wide effort. Every committee has a role to play. He was clear, wasn't he?
Oh, my
goodness. Was he specific, Rob?
No. I don't know if it's possible to have less than zero respect for another human, but I have less than zero respect for this guy, just like Kevin McCarthy before him, because they're liars.
Right.
They lie. They lie. And what they do, and this is what the Republicans do, and this is what they've done under McCarthy, and now they've done under Johnson, is they will do things when they know they won't pass. They'll do things when they don't have teeth. Then when they have the opportunity to put teeth into something, like a border security bill, like ensuring that you don't have 9 million people pouring across the southern border illegally, or getting spending under control, or reforming the IRS, or whatever it might be, they don't do it because they don't actually want to do it. So he had an opportunity. Like, this is not some new thing. Oh, man, there's unrest on college campuses, and there's a bunch of anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas lunatics running around college campuses. He knew that when he struck a deal to print $90 billion plus to give to Ukraine and to Israel and to Taiwan. And not only did he not get border security, if this was such a big damn deal to him, he could have got whatever he wanted when he did that. He didn't do anything. This guy is a pander. He sounds like Droopy Dog, by the way. Kevin, can you play the front of that again and tell me that does not sound like Droopy Dog is now the Speaker of the House?
Anti-Semitism is a virus. And because
am I right? Okay. Yeah, he is. I have zero respect for this guy. I have zero respect for the Republicans. They're liars, and I give zero credence to anything those people say because all they ever do is manipulate and not follow through.
Okay, well, here's a guy who likes to investigate forever, James Comer from the House Oversight Committee. He said he's going to follow the money trail, right? He said it appears global elites are funding these hateful protests in tent cities.
The failure of Columbia University to address the pro-Hamas mob is an appalling lack of leadership. Now we are witnessing copycat anti-Israel protests pop up at universities across the country. These radical protests threatening violence against Jews are anything but organic. It appears global elites are funding these hateful protests in pop-up tent cities. These are the same groups that fund other radical agendas, energy production, and pushing soft-on-crime policies that harm the American people. The House Oversight Committee will follow the money trail, expose it to the American people, and seek to hold bad actors funding hate accountable.
Okay, do you believe a word of this guy says? Because he said that they're going to hold people accountable.
Sure.
He's the guy who wants to hold everybody accountable.
Well, if we go by his Biden timeline, that means by, let's see, by late summer 2025, we might finally maybe get some answers. Not any action on it, but we might maybe get some information and some answers. I just love that these Republicans in the House of Representatives representative, they're like, man, and it's the same thing that we see here in our own state legislature. Man, this is really bad. If only someone would do something about this.
If only someone.
As though they are not the people in the position to do the thing about the stuff to which they complain. They control the money. They could cut off every federal funding for every government program if they wanted to get whatever they want. The answer is they don't want to do anything about it. They don't actually care.
Okay, so not to completely dishearten you about the future of the country, there is a glimmer of hope, and it comes from some fraternity boys on the campus of University of North Carolina.
The Iwo Jima guys.
Yes. Okay, now I want to read this thread because this is from one of the guys that was there. He said, today was a sad yet empowering day at Chapel Hill. When I walked to class, I saw the Palestinian flag raised on our quad flagpole and was immediately upset at the act that these protesters had made. I cannot say I fully am educated on the Israel-Palestinian conflict, but it upset me that my country's flag was disrespected in order to advocate for another. Shortly after Chancellor Roberts came with police officers to hang the flag once again, they were met with profanity, middle fingers, thrown bottle rockets, and water. When the flag was raised once again, the Greek community began singing the national anthem, and as the chancellor left, the quad erupted into chaos, and protesters began removing the flag once again, preparing to destroy it. He said, my fraternity brothers and I ran over to hold it up. We were not going to let the American flag touch the ground.
At the twilight's last gleaming,
he said, we stood for an hour defending the flag that so many fought to protect.
Well, good on them. At least somebody gives a damn about this country,
At
Casey.
least somebody cares, and it's a group of guys.
All right, when we come back, look, at this point, you can't shame these people into doing anything, but clearly since they don't care about, our legislature doesn't care about the old people and how they're going to figure out how to stay in their home. Maybe if they know they're screwing veterans over, maybe that will motivate them to do something. So I'm going to read you an email I got about what a terrible choice one veteran is now having to face because of the out-of-control property taxes.
It's coming up with Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
Let's talk about the knock on you.
Tony Katz.
Comes, the state locks down, you are there right next to Governor Eric Holcomb, and you say nothing.
Gets beyond the talking points.
Let me give you the story about you in case you didn't know this. No one knows who you are, sir.
With the GOP gubernatorial candidates.
You're a nice guy. Literally no one has any idea. How do you overcome that? Can you outspend Mike Braun? Because that's what you're going to have to do to win this thing.
Stream all the videos at WIBC.com.
On a map, the southern border is 1,000 miles away, but that's not how it feels to my family. I grew up in a blue-collar home in Richmond. My dad was a factory worker. He was laid off twice, not because the factory was doing poorly, but because it was cheaper to move those jobs across the border. I'm Jamison Carrier. Today, it's not what's leaving across the border that's devastating our families, it's what's coming in. And once again, it's personal. My wife and I lost our son Joey to fentanyl, a tragedy that's become far too common. To President Biden, secure the border is just a talking point. But to our family, it's life and death. I'm Jamison Carrier. I'm a business owner, a native Hoosier, and a Trump Republican. And we can't wait another day to secure our border and put Americans first. I'm Jamison Carrier, and I approve this message.
Jamison Carrier for Congress. Paid for by Carrier for Congress, Inc.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Our Cookie Two-Step Ice Cream is a creamy vanilla ice cream with hints of brown sugar, chunks of chocolate cream-filled cookies, and tasty chocolate chip cookie dough pieces. Cookie Two-Step has everybody's taste buds two-stepping, and 1 and 2.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
for Bluebell ice cream at all Needler's Fresh Markets and Walgreens.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password,
for you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
Go where the pros go. Drexel Interiors for Timberlake Kitchen and Bath Cabinets. Visit Drexel's new design center on 146th Street at River Road or on North Shadeland. DrexelIN.com.
Good morning, 20 minutes after 11 with Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
So our lawmakers have no shame. And you can't really, guilt them into doing the right thing. Trust me, Casey, I've been trying on it now for 7 years, and the harder I try, the more progressively worse it becomes. But I thought, with this property tax thing, maybe we've been going about it all wrong because we've been talking about, you would assume you're trying to appeal to people's human decency of, okay, let's start with the old people.
Yeah.
Screw able-bodied people like us, even though we're getting totally hosed. Let's try to work on the old people first, maybe the senior citizens. Well, that clearly hasn't worked because we've been at this for 4 years now, in my case, and we've gotten nowhere. So I got this email, and I thought, well, maybe if the lawmakers have no shame about screwing widowers and the elderly, maybe if they know they're harming the veterans.
Okay.
Maybe because we pass things for veterans all the time, and I got this email, and I thought, well, heck. We're getting all of these real-world story emails from people, and I cannot imagine, what a horrific human being you have to be to know that people in our society are getting screwed, know you have the ability to fix it, and just go, yeah, it's kind of a local issue. They know this is going on. I assume they're hearing from people at the grocery stores. All these candidates for governor, Matt Hiblin and I were laughing about this the other day, that every one of these candidates for governor will say, oh, yeah, that's the topic I hear the most about.
It's a real sticky wicket.
But then there's never any solution.
That was a tough one.
So I got this email, and I'm going to read it. It comes from Ken. And are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, Rob, here's a crazy property tax story. A Marine Corps disabled vet, husband and father of 2 young kids, bought what he thought would be the perfect forever home to raise his family up in Madison County. He bought this home 9 years ago and hasn't changed or updated anything. This home, which had an original purchase of $250,000, was within his budget, has somehow doubled in value since the COVID real estate insanity began. As you can imagine, both property taxes and home insurance have also doubled. Now they have no choice but to sell so they can buy a home at today's value of $250,000 so that they can once again afford property taxes and insurance.
Wow.
However, to get a $250,000 house at today's prices means a drastic cut to the quality and size of property they currently have. Of course, with the increased value of the current property, they'll be able to come out fine financially, maybe even better off since they lived in that home for 8+ years, meaning no capital gains tax. However, why should they have to go through this just because our so-called conservative politicians in Indiana don't give a damn about us? I hate this entire election cycle. I find myself voting against people rather than for, as in voting against all incumbents regardless of party.
He got the message.
I think that's just perfect, Casey. I think that's just where the majority of people are at. It's like this Joe Baddick guy that's running against Jeff Thompson. He has incessantly tried to get a hold of me and tell me his story. And I just told him, dude, I don't care. Unless you're photographed with Che or Castro somewhere, I'm voting for you because Jeff Thompson has done such a terrible job. But it sucks. I feel bad that that's how I'm voting, but that's the only thing I have now. Because our elected people simply to know there's not even a disagreement that the problem exists. Normally it's a fight over, well, how big of a problem actually is this? And reasonable people will come to disagreements. And if everybody doesn't agree that that's a problem, then it doesn't get action. Everybody's acknowledging this problem exists, and they have for several years now, and yet they do nothing.
Right. But, well, what did the one politician tell you? Well, yeah, it's just, it's very... Very intense, and there's a lot of facets to it, and you wouldn't understand. By the way, I want to thank that Marine for his service, but how awful that they have to move out of their family home because of this.
I got another email. If we can go ahead and read this, because I want Rob at WIBC.com. What is your email? I never email you.
It's Casey at WIBC.com.
And by the way, I will be out tomorrow and Friday, so email Casey as well with these, and we'll keep reading them on the air because we want you to know you're not alone. And we want to motivate people to contact your legislators and demand that they take some sort of action.
But, the frustrating part is, and I get voicemails all the time, we don't air all of them, but people do contact them and they get nothing back. They either hear nothing back or there's that needs to be worked on.
They don't fear you, and that's where it comes back to. If you vote for any incumbent, you're voting for the problem. You're part of the problem. If you vote for Mike Braun, you're part of the problem. If you vote for Suzanne Crouch, you're part of the problem. If you vote for Brad Chambers, you're part of the problem. If you vote for Eric Doden, you're part of the problem.
Before you read that email, I did want to say one thing. We were talking about how people are voting against people rather than for people, and there is one part that is getting me excited to vote, and that is the delegates.
Yeah.
So that they can get the disruptor Micah Beckwith in there.
Let me read this email, and then we'll talk about how you can, if you really want to do something, we'll talk about how you can do that. All right. Well, Rob, I never would have believed I would be giving you a compliment and thanking you for telling the truth about your Republicans. You deserve it, and there it is. The truth about property tax and taxes in general for a Republican-controlled state of so-called low-tax party is ridiculous. You've been constantly calling them out daily with the phony blowhard Mike Braun. The only thing that clown is concerned about is running his mouth and for some reason wanting to see and hear his goofy looking self on TV. He doesn't care about property tax because it's not personally an issue for him. For the record, I don't like the far right or far left. Politics are like a bowling alley. The far right and far left are the gutters. Look into the corporate profits since the so-called inflation keeps going. There was an inflation spike because of COVID and supply chain issues and things. Since then, it's mostly greed-driven BS. No one wants to address the biggest cause. It's just like the Medicare, Medicaid we can't afford and is running out of money, largely due to the pharmaceutical, medical, and insurance companies ripping everyone off, and no one will talk about it. And I just think that's where people are at. It's like they look around and everywhere they feel like they're getting screwed. They feel like whether it's the cost of food, whether it's the cost of medicine, whether it's the cost of healthcare, whether it's the cost of living in their home, whether it's the cost of insurance, people are running out of money. Like they're running out of real estate. They're running out of rope. It's not that they're being irresponsible. It's not that they're not working. It's like I only have so many hours in the day to earn a living and raise my kids, and where else am I supposed to turn? What am I supposed to do? And no one is helping them, and that's why you're hearing the frustration that you're hearing.
Okay, so you mentioned getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, and he actually has a video out right now. Micah did. He just put it up on Facebook talking about the property tax and talking about how if he is elected lieutenant governor, screw whoever the governor is, we're talking about that. And we're going to stay on it, and we're not going to solve it because he's right. It's a moral issue. And one of the great things about Micah is the moral compass that he has. And he has said it's a moral issue when you are taking from people, when you're irresponsibly taking from people, and especially when it involves their home that they bought that you, the government, had nothing to do with. So the delegates are the most important thing you're going to vote on this election cycle. Let's face it, the overwhelming majority of these people running for public office are, in many cases, total zeros, and they're going to let you down anyway. But you have an opportunity, if we can get him in there as lieutenant governor, to have a legitimate person with a bully pulpit who is not beholden to this party. The party is the problem. The stranglehold of the power structure, the Hathaways, the Kyle Hupfers, the Holcombs, people get totally wed and beholden to the party, and they're afraid of the party. And if we can get somebody in there that's not beholden to the party, that's beholden to us, we have a puncher's chance. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, listen to this. Indiana House Republican Campaign Committee and the state Republican Party have reported in the past week some $350,000 in spending on behalf of House incumbents.
And it includes guys like Jim Lucas, because obviously Jim Lucas is a complete train wreck and a disaster. And if you're represented by him, you should be totally embarrassed to be represented by Jim Lucas. And like I said, if you actually want to watch me crap a rainbow on live radio, I can't imagine that it's actually going to happen, and I would get that lucky because he has such an overwhelming advantage with the establishment. By the way, the establishment running in with money to save Jim Lucas is hilarious. And these other establishment House Republicans who have legitimate primary challenges, they're not saving them because they like them. They're saving them because they're reliable votes.
Right.
They know they'll do whatever the party says. And if you look at the track record of Jim Lucas, he votes for all the spending. He votes for all the growth of government. He posts on Facebook well, but in terms of actual accomplishment, there's nothing. And so Micah is it. Micah is the chance, okay? So if you go to his website, micahbeckwith.com, there's a big tab at the top that it's called Micah's Picks, and it has people who have said at the convention, we will vote for Micah for lieutenant governor. And so when you vote for your delegates, this is a way for you to kind of judge who should I be voting for in order to ensure we're voting for people who will vote for Micah. Because let's face it, all of these House and Senate Republicans have had 4 years to fix this, Casey. They're not going to fix it. They don't care. So you have to start standing up for yourself, or you can't keep complaining if you keep voting the same people in that they keep doing the same thing that they've always done. $350,000, Casey, they're throwing in to save these people. They ain't doing it because they're nice guys or look good in suits. They're doing it because they're reliable yes votes against you.
It is Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
They move regardless. I'm Kirk Darling. Here's what's trending at 11:30. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will attack the southern Gaza city of Rafah with or without a ceasefire deal. In a statement, Netanyahu said it's out of the question that Israel would halt the war against Hamas before achieving its goals. Reclassifying pot, that's what the White House wants to do. Fox's Ryan Schmelz.
The historic move by the Drug Enforcement Administration receiving praise from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who says the DEA is, quote, finally recognizing that restrictive and draconian cannabis laws need to change to catch up with what science and the majority of Americans have said loud and clear. The reclassification would mean marijuana is no longer a Schedule I drug. On Capitol Hill, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
I'm Kirk Darling. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Politicians who tell you what you want to hear and do the exact opposite. Nothing new there, right? Well, this is one for the record books. I'm sure you've seen his ads. See if you can guess who this is. He was an original Never-Trumper, on the board of the campaign that opposed Donald Trump from the beginning. Sponsored a bill to restrict guns and gear from police departments. Talk about defund the police. Even voted to pay tuition for illegals with our tax dollars. And gave them driver's licenses too. Oh, and he raised taxes 20 times and doubled state spending. Who is this big budget liberal, you ask? It's Republican Mike Speedy. So don't be fooled by those ads. Know the real record before you vote. Mike Speedy's liberal record.
I'm Jefferson Shreve, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Shreve for Congress.
Garage Doors of Indianapolis is everything that's right about Central Indiana. They've been locally family-owned for 50 years, helping our local economy remain strong by employing 70 families. Garage Doors of Indianapolis is proud to do business right here in the great state of Indiana. They're a conservative-minded company that shares our values and stands by their products and services. You can call Garage Doors of Indianapolis today for service today. 875-4577, 875-4577, or visit doorstoday.com.
Mecum Auctions, the world's largest collector car auction company, returns to Indy with Dana Mecum's 37th Original Spring Classic, May 10th through the 18th at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. 3,000 muscle cars, Corvettes, exotics, and more. Broadcast on Motor Trend TV and streaming live on Max. From avid collectors to those new to the Mecum experience, we welcome everyone. Register to bid now at Mecum.com.
There's a domino effect that takes place when the first person orders a hash brown with their breakfast sandwich. Suddenly, no one in the car can think of a single reason why not to get a little extra crunch. And you'll hear a chorus of, "I'll do the same," from the back seat.
Say yes to tasty with McDonald's Buy One, Get One for $1. Now featuring the sausage burrito, sausage McMuffin, sausage biscuit, and hash browns for a limited time. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal. Valid for product of equal or lesser value.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All-American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Healthcare.gov is here for you when life happens. If you lost your health coverage because of turning 26, going off Medicaid, leaving your job, or moving, you could be eligible to enroll in new coverage now. And if you need to update your coverage because of marriage or having a baby, you could also be eligible. But don't wait. There's a limited time to enroll. Check your eligibility at healthcare.gov today. Life happens. Get covered. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Mother's Day is almost here. Sundown Gardens is fully stocked with high-quality annuals, trees, shrubs, decor, and more. 186th Street and Spring Mill Road, sundown.gardens.com.
Do you need air conditioning service and want to find a local American Standard air dealer you can trust, like Absolute Comfort? Find that dealer at IndyHomeComfort.com.
You're listening to the Kendall and Casey Show on 93 WIBC.
It's a fight, and this one, it's real. Tyson's upcoming bout with Jake Paul has been sanctioned. Most Valuable Promotions said, yep, they're going to make this a real fight. It's going to be the first official fight that Mike Tyson has been in since 2005, and it's going to feature 8 2-minute rounds, 14-ounce gloves, and this will go on Tyson's 50-6 record.
Look, I mean, you put Mike Tyson in terms of, especially if you're of a certain age. I'm 40, so if you're anywhere between probably the ages of, say, 35 and 60, you were, or maybe not 60, but 35 and 55, you were a young person when Mike Tyson was at some level in his prime, and certainly pre-go-to-prison Tyson was arguably the greatest pure puncher that ever lived. I mean, the problem with the Tyson fights was always they couldn't get more than 1 or 2 rounds out of the guy that he was fighting because the guy was just he was an animal.
Knocking his opponent out.
Yeah, and so he wasn't that great a boxer technically. He was just a phenomenal puncher and, the baddest man on the planet. And so Mike Tyson obviously had a very sordid past. He did some horrific things. But in terms of people my age, they remember the Mike Tyson Punch-Out game, and everybody was a Little Joe or whatever it was, and all those wacky characters that you had to beat to get to Mike Tyson at the end. And so from a nostalgia standpoint, this is going to sell very well. It's going to be very popular. Obviously, Jake Paul has this, phenomenal internet following, and let's face it, this guy's a fraction of Tyson's age. He should, from a boxing perspective, be able to run circles around Tyson.
Think.
However,
stamina alone.
If he stands wrong once, and that's going to be the intrigue here,
right?
Tyson could knock him out. It's like in 2006 they made that Rocky movie, and they had Antonio Tarver, who was a legitimate boxer, play the role of the champ against Rocky. And Rocky at the time was similar age to what Tyson is now, and it's this one dream fight. They had this Nintendo game or whatever that scores this imaginary fight between them, and they decide to do it for real. And that's kind of what this is. It's like everything on paper says that Paul should run circles around Tyson, but the nostalgia in people my age is like, hey man, one good punch and Tyson can knock this dude down.
That's all he needs. Tyson is 58, or he will be 58 years old when the fight happens in July. And the betting community responding kind of positively to Tyson. They're giving him nearly even money with Jake Paul.
Well, that's probably unrealistic, like I said, given his age and the lack of the limitation he's going to have associated with that, and his lack of in-ring experience over the past almost 20 years. There's nothing on paper that you would say he should win this fight. However, you watch those training videos, and that dude, remember the video of him beating the snot out of that guy on the airplane? And it's like, look, I will not pay for this, but if a WIBC listener is going to be paying for this and would like for me to
be a guest,
come to their event,
you'll come hang out with them.
I would be tempted to do this. These fights rarely live up to the hype. The last fight I paid money to see was who's the famous
the famous boxer?
The guy Mayweather. Jeez, senior moment. I was like, oh my gosh, Mayweather and Pacquiao. This would have been 8 or 9 years ago now.
Yeah.
And that was the fight that was so popular. They were literally charging people to get into bars, to be able, not in addition to the drinks you had to buy, they were literally charging a cover to get in to watch that fight. That fight didn't near live up to the hype. Pacquiao got injured, and it was like...
Wasn't that fight like $100?
Oh, it was super, but it was like even the bars were charging people like, $20 to get in, and you had to get there 8 hours early. I remember Kilroy's in Broad Ripple. We got there like in the afternoon, and it was sold out.
Right.
Like you had to sit there all day. And obviously, it was great business for them. But this kind of has that vibe to it. I think it's a hype will be more than the actual fight itself. But it is intriguing. It is fun to talk about. Can the old GOAT, can the old dinosaur, does he have one great punch
final
left in him? Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of it. The anticipation sometimes is more fun than the actual event. So Mike Tyson said that in preparation for this fight, he's giving up weed and sex. Now, just like Tiger Woods, when he was preparing for the Masters, he said that he was giving up the sex as well. What is it with these athletes who don't want to get down?
I don't know. Casey, let me be as clear as I can be to our audience, as specific as I can be to our audience.
Please.
Any athletic endeavor I engage in, or any endeavor that I engage in, period, I will never, and I mean ever,
give it up.
Ever. Am I saying it clearly? I like George Bush, circa 1991. I will never give up sex.
I would think that'd be a good cardio workout for him. Don't give that up. It's therapeutic.
I mean, you're cheering for. We got to cheer for Tyson on this one, right? I mean, I kind of hate to do that, but from a nostalgia standpoint,
I don't know. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you when it gets closer to the fight.
Tell your husband to buy this fight.
He would too. He would. He would do it for you. Abdul's going to join us next. It's Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
Coming up on Tony Katz today, riots on the campus of UCLA. Police and the protests at Columbia. Were they right? That's after the news at noon on 93 WIBC.
Spring in Indy, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Don did. He called Rhino Shield.
Well, the home was built in 1948. Paint on the aluminum siding was peeling, and I couldn't find anyone who would repaint it until I called Rhino Shield.
Rhino Shield's better than paint, and the crew?
Painted all my aluminum siding, and I've got a front porch that runs the whole length of the house, and all the pillars and everything. And once they were gone, I couldn't even tell that they were there.
With Rhino Shield's 25-year transferable warranty, you'll never have to paint your home again. And right now, you can have Rhino Shield for 15% off the regular price.
Well, I've told a lot of people, do the Rhino Shield. It's really a great product, and if you don't want to paint the house, that would be the way to go.
Here's Rhino Shield's Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl.
Go Rhino.
Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Sinus pressure, congestion, snoring, being unable to sleep, being unable to breathe. Yep, it's another sinus infection. You've Googled, watched videos, tried over-the-counter sprays, medications, and home remedies, but nothing ever works. There must be some kind of treatment that can help, right? Indianapolis Sinus Center understands how draining it can be when you try treatment after treatment without any relief. That's why they've been serving and treating the community for over 50 years. Indianapolis Sinus Center has performed thousands of procedures and helped thousands of patients find lasting relief they didn't know was possible. Patients like you. If you've had enough of sinus pain, pressure, and congestion, schedule a visit with Indianapolis Sinus Center today. Call 317-528-9650 and take the first step toward breathing easy. 317-528-9650. That's 317-528-9650. Or visit IndianapolisSinusCenter.com.
Hey, it's Hammer Nigel, and look, if you're over 60 and you've not filed for Social Security, there's some stats you might want to know about.
Did you know that 96% of Americans forfeit an average of $111,000 in Social Security income?
Wow, and it's because they file for their benefits at the wrong time. Now, you could learn how you could wring every nickel out of the benefits with a free customized Social Security analysis from Bill Demery. He's your retirement guy right here in Indy.
The free analysis makes filing for Social Security as easy as it can be, and it could help ensure you get the last penny out of the benefits that are rightfully yours.
So if you've saved more than $200,000 for retirement and you've not filed for Social Security, call now, 317-648-5120. That's 648-5120. Schedule your free analysis by calling Bill Demery at 648-5120. Tell him Hammer and Nigel sent you.
Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson. Before they were legends, they were lost souls looking for their sound.
Want to be a songwriter?
Not Willie. You are a songwriter.
Discover the true, untold story of Sue Brewer, the extraordinary woman behind outlaw country music, starring Mandy Moore and featuring T.J. Osborne.
They call it the Boar's Nest. It's just my apartment, but you never know who'll show up.
In a new scripted Audible original.
Any advice?
Yeah, to steal something whiskey can't.
The Boar's Nest, Sue Brewer and the birth of outlaw country music. Listen on Audible.
Hello, Indianapolis. This is your City County Councilor, Leroy Robinson. As a former public school teacher, school administrator, and dedicated servant to the Indianapolis Public School Board of Commissioners and the former state director for the Indiana Department of Education, I've committed my entire life to enhancing our community's educational foundation. With that commitment, working alongside Rise Indy, we encourage you to vote this Tuesday, May 7th.
This message sponsored and paid for by Rise Indy.
That moment when you realize you have a serious air conditioner issue. A real strip down to your skivvies, no one's sleeping tonight, head in the freezer fail party. But fear not. There's an expert for that.
Let your local experts at Broad Ripple Service Experts keep you cool. Get worry-free comfort for one low monthly payment.
Want to chill? There's an expert for that.
Call Broad Ripple Service Experts at 866-EXPERTS. See website for license details.
93 WIBC. It is the Kendall and Casey show. I'm Rob. Casey's here, and oh my goodness, I can't think of a better way to wrap up the show. He's an author, he's a broadcaster, he's an attorney, and he's the owner and operator of IndyPolitics.org. Abdul-Hakim Shabazz, hello.
And he's also tired and ready for May 7th to get here. Oh, sorry, take that back. May 9th to get here.
So you had an interesting piece over at IndyPolitics.org where you are basically sick of everyone and everything in politics, and you're very disappointed in the entire primary process this year.
Not so much disappointed. I mean, I do this for a living. I've been doing this for a living for 30 years. And about this time, you always get sort of like, okay, are we done yet? Because if I hear axe attacks, if I hear I'm a conservative, I hear I'm an outsider, if I hear conservative tested leadership, if I hear another, Book of Daniel, quoted on a stage, I'm going to pull my hair out.
Okay, so let's start with the governor's race. There were too many. I maintain there are too many people running. I'm all for competition, but there's too many people running, and I think that's why Braun has maintained the lead, is these votes are just getting divided up, and there's just so much noise, it's hard for people to get through, so they kind of are just disinterested and tune out.
There's a lot of disinterest. For example, here in Marion County, as we record this conversation, as of yesterday, there were like 7,200 early absentee votes. And with the primary being on Tuesday, in the municipal primary, there were like 30,000 early votes cast.
Wow.
in a primary, and that was
four times.
Yeah, that was a municipal primary. Now, I will say theoretically, last year we had like an extra week of early voting, but still, it's like the voter disinterest and dispassion is just amazing to watch.
Why do you think that is?
People are just tired. They're tired of politics. They don't like Republicans. They don't like Democrats. There's no contested presidential race here, and so why come out and vote?
It's also too, and we got into this a little bit on State House Happenings. There's just nothing interesting about these governor candidates. Like, there's no wacky outsider that's kind of mainstream enough that you're like, that person's super interesting.
I thought they were all outsiders.
Well. Yeah, right.
At least half of them.
I mean, there's just nothing about, hey, we talk about the 5th district, and whether you like the guy or not, I don't have any idea what his views are on most things, and I don't vote for people that don't know what their views. I can't vote for him anyway because I don't live there. But like Raju, we had fun with the Raju theme song. Okay, if I lived in the 5th, I would really dig into his policy positions and want to learn about him. There's just nothing that stood out about any of these candidates for governor.
Well, actually, and I would argue theoretically, it kind of shows that Indiana's in a good place because there's no one competing issue that really get people all worked up. Now, granted, some people have property taxes, some people have Medicaid funding. They're important, but they're not sexy, so to speak. They're not the big issue that's out. It's not a RFRA related issue that gets people all worked up. So.
Okay. You said that you think Indiana's in a good place. I think a lot of people would argue differently with that. I mean, you mentioned, the Medicaid, the property tax, our gas tax. You've got a mental health crisis, and we're last state in the country for voter turnout.
When we polled the Republican primary voters, and we asked if the state was on the right track or the wrong track, I want to say about 50%, almost 50% said the state was on the right track.
It's kind of low, though, for a Republican supermajority state.
Well, 50% is on the right track. About 25% said not on the wrong track, and the other were undecided.
But that's amazing to me that in a Republican supermajority state, you're asking Republican voters, and whatever the number is, let's say it's 51, let's say it's 49, let's say it's 52, let's say it's 48, that you're not getting 75% of the people going, yeah, we're doing a heck of a job. That just seems very low that you can't get a nod from more than about half the voters.
No, that's about right. About
really?
50 on the right track, 30% wrong track, 20% undecided.
In the party that controls everything? Yeah. I mean, I would get that for a general election. But...
Yeah, because look, present company included.
Yeah.
I think state's on the right track. You think state's on the wrong track.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
And I'm undecided.
Exactly.
Look at that.
3 people, all the same place, known each other for years.
Yeah. Okay.
3 different opinions.
So you had reported over at indypolitics.org that and I think this may have been a cheat sheet deal, which, by the way, everybody should get a cheat sheet subscription, keep Abdul afloat and prosperous in life over at indypolitics.org, that it's basically down to it's Braun, but he may be in some trouble, and Crouch is the one that is ascending.
Yes. The latest polling data I had access to, Mike Braun was still about a third of the vote. Suzanne was up from 10. She was like a 20. Everybody else was still in that same area. The number of undecideds have dropped. That tells me that Suzanne's got some momentum. So the question is, can that momentum carry her through to the finish line? Okay. It's like the Indy 500, those last few laps. You got to save your gas, conserve, or whatever.
Mr. Racing over
here.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Why do you think Mike Braun is in trouble? And are you surprised that no one's dropped out yet?
Well, it's too late to drop out.
Yeah, but you could say go vote for Tina. You could say
you can suspend your campaign.
Sure,
that you can do. But also, you got to understand too. It's going to sound really weird coming from all people. Politics is known for people who have pretty big egos.
What?
Well, yeah, I get that if you're Rittenhour or Hill, there is no reason for them to drop out. But if you're Doden, Chambers, Crouch, and they all kind of have a lot of the same views on things, wouldn't you have said, had to some sort of closed-door, mafia-esque type meeting and said, okay, we're dividing up this vote. If 2 of us get out and we give all the votes to one of these people, we can actually probably beat Braun. I mean, that's how Braun's going to win, right? Like, they're going to divide up that sort of super establishment-y vote, and Braun's going to win, probably.
I would argue that Braun's also established. I would argue they're all established.
Well, I agree with you, but I'm saying the way they're presenting themselves.
Yeah, this is all outside. Like, no, you're not. You've been in government for how long?
Please. Right. Thank you.
Stop.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Let's just stop with the outside.
Thank you.
Because none of you guys are outside. Even Eric Doden and Brad Chambers are not outsiders because you don't run the Economic Development Commission unless you're an insider. You know what the heck is going on.
Yes, 100%. All right, Abdul's with us, kind of an election day preview here. So if you had a gun to your head, you would still say Braun's going to probably win this thing, though.
I would say the win is that Mike Braun's back, but anything can still happen.
Okay, let's talk about the 5th. We got into this State House happenings. I've talked to multiple people. I get different responses. I think Victoria Sparks is going to win that race just because I don't think the Chuck Goodrich ads, well, he's run a bunch of them, I don't think they're that good, and I don't think people are going to vote against somebody just because she's mean to her employees.
I would argue that automatically the incumbents automatically have an advantage over the challengers. And the more challengers you have, the easier it is for the incumbent to get ahead. Because the incumbent will always have their base, which I would argue with Victoria Sparks is probably about, I would say, 35, 40%. But in a race of 8, 12 people, that's all you need.
She's sort of in the same spot Braun's in. She's a beneficiary of there being 9 million people running.
Yep.
6th District, you and Merritt agreed on this in State House happenings. This also blew my mind. You both think Jefferson Shreve is going to win that race.
Yep, because once again, you got a lot of people. You got once again, you got your CVS pharmacy receipt ballot. And number 2, Jefferson is on television, and he's running his ads. And for the most people, those are the only ads that you'll see in the 6th congressional district.
Like if you live in Richmond.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing about that, though. People say, well, what about Jefferson when he ran for mayor? What about his, Second Amendment issues, the abortion issue? Well, that's all fine and good, but it doesn't do any good if you can't get your message out because you have no money.
And the other thing is that, and there's also a bunch of people running, but Mike Speedy's record, if you're a conservative, the tax increases, the growth in government, he's been in politics since the earth was young. He's sort of everything you kind of don't like either, so there's not like some fervor to go vote for Mike Speedy.
I would argue that where Speedy actually does well, and the race is going to be fought and won in Marion County, particularly in Perry and Franklin Township.
That's part of the district,
yeah,
right?
And also I want to say Perry Township is the biggest population center in the 6th.
No kidding.
In the 6th congressional district.
No kidding. So that's good for Shreve.
Good for Shreve, and also to a certain degree, good for Speedy because they're both from that Perry Franklin Township area.
Before we go ahead, Casey.
I was just going to ask Abdul if he was surprised about the money being spent.
No.
Is it on par or is it higher than typical?
Higher than typical.
Yeah.
Because you got so many people running and so many television ads, and it ain't cheap. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
You get the cheapest rate to advertise, but it ain't cheap.
Yeah.
When I heard a John Jacobs ad on WIBC.
Hey, business is a booming, brother. Hey, so we'll obviously touch base next week. We'll have election results. So just make sure we have this before we let you go. So we have it down. See how well you do. You've got Braun. You've got Shreve. You've got Sparts.
As of today, yes.
How very lawyerly
because
of you.
Because in politics, a day is a lifetime.
Theoretically.
Yes, right.
Remember, in politics, a day is a lifetime, and they're like, what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You've got 6 lifetimes to go.
Yeah, all right. Abdul Keep you're the best. Find him at IndyPolitics.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for us today. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you for listening. This has been Kendall and Casey on 93 WIBC.
On a map, the southern border is 1,000 miles away, but that's not how it feels to my family. I grew up in a blue-collar home in Richmond. My dad was a factory worker. He was laid off twice. Not because the factory was doing poorly, but because it was cheaper to move those jobs across the border.